Okay, we're going to start in a minute. Everyone wants to get to their chair. We have a board member who has just arrived. Yeah, there she is. We're not mentioning names. Who's late? She was here earlier. She forgot her book, so she had to run back out. So, thank you all for coming. Appreciate your interest. Obviously, today's election day, so that's kind of a cool thing. My wife got me to mail mine, so I didn't have to be all panicky today. So that was another good thing. So I'll just let her sit down before I make her stand up. So, all right, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Tom, you want to lead? Okay, Harmony.
Okay, Director Nathan?
Here.
Director Berringham?
Here.
Director Odell? Here. Director Poland?
Here.
President Welty?
Here.
Vice President Cormet?
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from January 13th, February 4th, February 6th, February 12th, and February 13th.
Second. Any board discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Public officials, I think they're all down there shaking hands 150 feet from the polls. Oh, Randy, are you out there? Oh, Ray, you're good? Oh, Randy's here. Okay, thank you. Presentations. Do we have any presentations today?
No.
Oh, we're moving right along. Okay, on item 5, consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull any of the items? I'd like to pull D.
Item pulled.
D.
D as in dog?
Any other items? Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda except for item D.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Item D, just a discussion. We're doing reserve funding for the Eastport slope. Did the attorneys have a chance to look at the contract, or we have a contract, or where are we at with that?
We don't have a contract yet.
Do you have a
It needs to be approved first.
the funding needs to be approved?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure the attorneys review the contract, so, pardon?
It'll be the same one we use for all our other things that they vetted.
That they've, I'd like to have them individually look at that if we could. So I'd make a motion to approve D, subject to the attorneys reviewing the contract. Oh. Okay.
I just have a quick question, item D as well. Steve already knows to come up. This is a secondary effect to the block wall project, I'm assuming?
Actually, two different projects, the block wall project and the parking lot project.
And the park, okay. So is it going to be split funded between road reserve and reserve, or how are we going to fund that?
Just straight up reserve, since the landscaping is in the reserve study.
Okay. So the block wall contract had a contingency attached to it. Was the contingency used fully, or?
We use some of the contingency for testing of the soils after compaction, and also inspection of the block wall and the permit for the block wall, but we did not use the entire contingency. There's a small number there, and I don't have that number with me.
That's okay. That was funded through CIP as well, anyway. So the contingency could not be used for the landscape.
Well, the landscape is in the Reserve 02 fund,
Okay.
so that's where I'm requesting these funds to come out of,
Okay.
not to come out of the CIP fund.
Okay. Thank you.
So I make a motion to approve the funding subject to the review of the attorneys of the contract. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Five in favor, motion carried.
No public comment on that, I take it. Okay. Board action items, rule revisions, single and multi-stories. Cheryl, that would be something for you to talk about?
Okay, so yes, we have two rule revisions that went for a 28-day reading in the last 2 months. The first one is PC 5.2 for single, multiple stories. It's really, what it is a definition on what the committee is considering to have for 1 story versus 2 stories, and it's a CCNR amendment. Actually, not amendment to the CCNR, amendment to the rule for the CCNR. So we're recommending that the board approve the revision to our PC 5.2 single story as attached.
Board have any questions? Members have any questions on that? Do I have a motion? Oh, okay. Do I have a motion? Oh, sure. Oh, we may. We'll motion second, one comment.
I move approval of the recommended revision to PC 5.2 related to single multi-story residences.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. Do we have any board comments? Chris, you have any comments? No. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Five in favor, motion carried.
Okay, the secondary rule is PC 8.4, which is trees. This is another definition for a CCNR. It's actually to add to what is considered a tree that is added to PC 8.4. So it's recommended that the Directors Board of Directors approve the revision to PC 8.4 for trees as attached.
Any questions from the board?
Cheryl, on page 50, it says fine dash change to $500 one-time fine. Could you remind me, that is a change?
That would be an actually addition. Right now, what the actual rule is for trees is a $100 fine for things like not being 6 feet away from the curb, not trimming of the trees. This is actually a $500 fine if they should remove a tree without the permission of the ACC, according to our CCNRs.
So this rule change covers that addition, or is there need to be another change?
No, it covers that addition.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Any comments from the members?
No.
Okay, do we hear a motion?
I move approval of the tree ordinance, my favorite thing. PC 5. No, excuse me, got to get together here. PC 8.4 trees as written.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote no.
4 in favor, 1 against, motion carried.
Okay, Steve, well, you're going to be called up here. Recreation Committee appointment.
There are 2 vacancies in the Recreation Committee. 3 applicants were received to fill the vacancies from Douglas Hall, Sarah Potts, Kathy McCauley. All are current POA members and in good standing. The Rec Committee met and interviewed all 3 applicants. They voted and recommended Douglas Hall and Sarah Potts to fill the 2 vacancies. It is recommended the Board of Directors approve the appointment of Douglas Hall and Sarah Potts to the Rec Committee contingent upon execution of a confidentiality agreement effective immediately.
Any questions from the board? Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Douglas Hall and Sarah Potts as per the Recreation Committee recommendation.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments from the members?
No, sir.
Any comments from the board? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Five in favor, motion carried.
And Steve, you're back again, ratification of additional funding for work on the parking lot project.
In 2016, Willdan Engineering was retained to design the parking lot project. They were tasked in evaluating each area for ADA compliance, possible expansion, reconfiguration in order to create maximum available parking spaces for each area. Further, they were asked to evaluate each area for effective drainage to incorporate other features suggested by the community members and staff. In July 2019, staff put out a RFP on this project. In August, the Board of Directors approved the funding amount not to exceed $3.425 million, and the CLP hired Asphalt Fabric Engineering to complete this project. In September, our contractor went to work on several parking lots inside the community. In October, during the overseeding closure at the Country Club, we fully renovated the parking lot in 3 weeks. During this time, several design issues surfaced. Some of the issues were drainage elevations and meeting ADA slope percentages. Other items were badly cracked curbing, which were obviously needing replacing while the parking lot was being worked on. During this project, it was also decided to upgrade all the masonry retaining walls in this project, Indian Beach, Operations Lodge, etc., to this tan split face, both sides concrete block to standardize and match the new Eastport sound wall. Standard smooth gray concrete block was specified in our bid package, so this was obviously an upgrade. So this was a voluntary and logical upgrade on our part. Excuse me. Other items for additional costs were a paving overlay at Sierra Park, which was a better product, retaining wall, waterproofing, and additional asphalt removals on Canyon Lake Drive North, which have failed since design. We're a little over halfway through this project, and it's a large project, this large project just started in the Lodge parking lot, which all of you may have noticed on your way in tonight. And also on Canyon Lake Drive North, and the rest of the parking lots that require a slurry seal remain to be completed. We will also be meeting with our engineer to recover as much of the additional costs caused by poor or incomplete flawed work as possible in billing we receive from services and testing. Some of the changes are standard repair and replacement projects that we elected to do during this road reserve project for convenience. Attached in your board books is the change order log. Fiscal impact, the change order portion of this project that come out of road reserves is $168,281. This addition brings the project total to $3,397,296.80. The remaining portion of the change order is part of coming out of the Reserve and Replacement Fund 02670 and is listed in our operations report this month. Staff requests the Board of Directors to approve the additional funding for the pavement lot project to come from the road reserves 03670 in the amount of $168,281.
Any questions for Steve?
Steve, we had a contingency on this project. What was it?
The contingency on the project, I don't remember the exact percentage, but we are not to exceed $3,400,000.
I guess I'm leading up to a question of why isn't this being covered by the contingency?
It is being covered by the contingency as current, but we are at our limit of our contingency, so we're asking for these change orders.
This is over and above the contingency amount.
We are currently under budget by the difference of stated in the fiscal impact minus $3,425,000, so roughly $28,000 still left in the contingency.
I'm sorry, I'm not catching on. I guess I'm thick-headed tonight. When we approved this project at $3,425,000, it had a contingency set aside in that number.
Correct.
And that contingency is supposed to cover things that occur that we weren't expecting.
Correct.
So we have a bunch of things here that occurred that we weren't expecting, not considering the things that we changed that weren't contingent. And I just wondered if we used up the contingency, if the contingency is still there for other problems? Is this over and above the contingency? I just want to know what the relationship of these just change orders are to the contingency fund that we've already approved.
We are just at the limit of our contingency. We have about approximately $27,000 left in the contingency. I would like to approve the changes and then retain our contingency for anything else that might come up in the project. Correct.
So maybe you know, how much was the contingency? Round numbers, you know how I am.
3 or 4%.
So it's 3% would be $90,000 or something? It's $3 million?
Well, we had money.
$900,000.
A 3% contingency and then some other lump sum amounts, like $50,000 set aside for testing. And so there was a 3% contingency, pretty sure it was 3, and a few other estimated numbers, which led up to the $3,425,000. So the total for the testing and the contingencies, where we've used all but 28,000 of that at this point.
So when you say we've used it, then once we approve this request, then this $168,000 will help to restore quite a bit of that contingency?
Yes, and we have all of Canyon Lake Drive north from Vacation to Getz Road, and all the slurry sealing, and 3/4 of this, 7/8 of the lodge project here,
Okay, thank you.
which is a third of the contract right here.
I understand. I just want to know how it related to the contingency, because this didn't talk about that at all, that we were actually restoring the contingency fund, but I understand that that's the case. The other question I have is in your last paragraph on page 61. Other items for additional costs are a paving overlay at Sierra Park, better product. Now, does that mean that we changed the specification and we're using a better product for our overlays now?
Yes, we actually had already done the overlay there, and it's a product called Glass Grid, and it's approved by our engineer. It's a better product, it's recyclable, and we opted to do that because of the pumping action that was going on in that parking lot.
I think that's terrific. I'm glad you're using a better product. My question is, does this change order include all of the overlay that we're doing throughout the project with this better product?
No.
Are you going to need to come back? Because you're doing more overlay, correct?
Well, the Sierra Park is included in this money I'm asking for, and right now, we've evaluated all the other parking lots, and it doesn't look like we're going to be doing any other overlays in the parking lot other than the lodge parking lot here, which is also covered in this contingency.
It wasn't a global change.
It wasn't a global change.
We chose to use that specification in a few places that needed it, and we think we're done now.
Okay, thank you.
I had a couple of quick questions. Surprise, surprise. You stated that we'll be meeting with the engineer to recover as much of these additional costs as possible. Are we allowed to do so by our contract with the engineer, and have we notified the engineer that that's our intent?
Yes.
Yes to both?
Both, yes. to
Okay,
both.
and so far they're okay with this?
Yes, they're okay with it.
Okay, and then I think one of my questions was partially answered. So basically what you want to do is you want to use these funds to add to the contingency and save the contingency for the remaining portion of the parking lot project?
That is accurate.
Okay, and then have we extended the time of completion due to all these change orders?
The contractor is still on schedule.
Okay, so there's been no need to extend time?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So maybe a lessons learned that we can't learn, I don't know. Maybe the contingency should have been 5 or 6% instead of 3%? I mean, everything you described in here is just real world. This is how it goes. I understand that. But I think that there's room for us to think about our contingency funds, that what we set aside.
Yeah, it was low for a project this size, no question.
Okay. I, for one, would like to see realistic contingencies, so we don't have to go here, but that's just my opinion for right now.
It's a good goal.
Any other board questions for Steve? Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move approval of the request for additional funding for the work of the parking lot project as described to the tune of $168,281. And I would also like to just, well, I should let you have a second.
Okay.
You have a second?
Oh, I'll make a second. Does anyone have a second?
I'll second.
All right, do we have any member comments, Harmony? No. Any more board comments?
All I'd like to say is that I appreciate the need to do this. I hope that our community doesn't think that this is a classic example of us not paying attention to projects and under-designing or under-considering things and always having to come back and ask for more money. In major construction projects and minor construction projects, there are things that come up that are unexpected. There's also things that come up that we decide to change our mind for good reason. And I see that these are all in that condition. So I want to say again, this is appropriate and it's expected and it's not a signal that there's anything wrong with our process.
Okay, no more board comments. All in favor?
Aye.
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 5 in favor, motion carried.
Hello, Lynn. You're next. Lynn's going to be here for the Appeals Committee
Hi, good
appointment.
evening. Yes, I'm representing Mary. So the Appeals Committee currently has an opening for an alternate position. The association received an application from the following members listed on the action item: Brian Wood, Jessica, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Allenbaugh, David Humphrey, Ken Ross, and Jack Wamsley. The Appeals Committee has made a recommendation to approve Brian Wood as the alternate, contingent upon execution of a non-disclosure agreement effective immediately.
Any board questions for Lynn? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we appoint, Brian Wood as the alternate to the Appeals Committee, contingent upon execution of a non-disclosure agreement.
Second?
Second.
Any member comments?
No.
Any further board comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Carrie? We have a happy thing to talk about for a minute. It's all happy.
Hi, everyone. Each year we have a fireworks show on July 4th. It is recommended that the Board of Directors review the attached proposal, which they got in their board books. The cost for the fireworks show is $40,000, plus the cost of preparation for Skipper's Island and inspection by CAL FIRE. The cost includes choreographed music from 99 Cola Radio. You have the attachment. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approve or reject the fireworks show funding that is in my operating budget, Department 50.
Any board questions for Carrie? Okay, do I hear a motion? I'll do after the motion.
I move approval of the resolution to fund the 2020 July 4th fireworks show.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any comments from the members?
No.
Any further board comments? All in favor?
Wait a minute, let me just say that I think our 4th of July celebration is something that we're very proud of, our community is very proud of. We have received some comments and complaints about wasting money on the 4th of July, or perhaps we should try to charge people that come and watch it that don't belong in our community. I would like to say that this is an opportunity we have to spend, for each of us to spend a tiny bit of money to collectively do something extremely special that boasts our community pride and our unity.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, Carrie, you're back again. You need to stay in the chair for a while, so don't get up till I tell you.
It's activities night. This is the resolution for variances on Fiesta Day, and I've read them out loud before, but it's all the rules that we break, rules and regulations that we break, like driving down the middle of the street, golf carts in the middle of the road, that kind of thing. The event is held at the lodge. In addition to the activities at the lodge complex, there are ski shows and a parade. As directed from 2019, staff is seeking approval for the resolution of the variances for the 2020 Fiesta Day event on May 23rd, 2020. The only thing that I have added that is a little bit of a change from last year, we have a possible suspension of pool rules and opening of the pool as a ride. We voted against it, but I wanted to put it in this just in case. We're getting these little paddle boats that kids can paddle around, and we're trying to get them into the swim lane, but if that doesn't work, then we're going to try and put it at the pool.
So you're asking us to approve that too?
That's in there.
That's in there. Okay,
It's
so
just a
for a
change
second,
from-
you kind of said we denied it first time, but we're good.
Yeah,
I just want to understand.
that's the only change from previous years, is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Any other questions for Carrie from the board? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the rule variances. I would like to take out the word possible and have that bullet read suspension of pool rules and opening the pool as a Fiesta ride if selected by the committee, so that it's not a question of if it's possible, because we need to go to the board and get an answer for that.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Any member comments, Harmony?
No.
My comment is what a great day Fiesta Days is, and if you see a Fiesta Days committee member, shake their hand and say thank you very much, because they are working their tails off, at least for 6 months, if not the whole year, to make the Fiesta Days things work. So, again, if you see a Fiesta committee member, shake their hand, well, give them a fist bump, because we know we got coronavirus, and say thank you for the work they do. And by the way, the staff, it does pick up a cone or two in the road, so congratulations to you and your staff. No other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, the next one is the 2020 North Ski Jump Lagoon Club calendar and request for lake use variance. Annually, the 3 ski clubs ask to reserve the main lake or North Ski or Jump Lagoon for practices, events, and competitions. The use of these areas by the clubs requires approval to close the amenity and allow for the variance of the following rules and regulations. It seems that I included every possible rule, and do you want me to read those all out? I can. Okay, so main area, lake, speed limit.
I think we're okay.
Okay.
We can read all that.
So we had a newcomer this year, and that would be the Bassmasters, who is also requesting to close the North Ski area for fishing tournaments once a month, the end of the month. I think it was January through August.
Okay, any questions for Carrie?
I just want one clarification. So the Bassmasters, they didn't, this is new for this
new
year?
for them,
And they
yes.
want to close the lake, or they're just notifying us that they're having a tournament that
They
time?
want to close the lake just like the ski clubs do for the North Ski.
Okay, thank you.
And then there was one calendar in April where they had a Learn to Ride versus a wakeboard event, and they said that versus their tournament, and they said they'd pull their tournament in favor of the Learn to Ride for the kids.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that we table this item for tonight and send the calendar back to activities. In the past, we have had, the board provides the lake exclusion to allow permission to use the lake. Lake is considered one of the non-reservable amenities of our community, but people ask for permission and the board has granted it. Unfortunately, when that happens, there are no guidelines and very little in the way of guidance for our staff to be able to make decisions about what should or shouldn't be approved. So about 4 years ago, The board then was seeing a number of events all being booked into the summer months and saw that as being a negative for the community, and so they created a current guiding policy that said no closures between Memorial Day and Labor Day, although it doesn't say anything else besides that. And so now what's occurred is the areas on the month right before Memorial Day and the month and a half after Memorial Day have become completely cluttered, where every single weekend there's an event going on and the members of this community are not getting access to the amenity, which they are important too. So I'm going to recommend that we send it back to activities and ask that the board enhance the policy to give guidance to the staff that between September and May, that there be allowed only one event per month on the weekend, Saturday and or Sunday, whatever the club decides, but it has to be just over a single weekend. And the clubs are going to have to work together to be able to continue this. The other alternative is just to say no to everybody, and I think that's a little bit extreme. So I'm hoping that we can get staff to work with the clubs, get the calendar returned back to us next month. That will be amenable for the community to have access to that area, and also give the clubs at least some opportunity to perform the functions that they want to perform as club events.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any member comments?
Yes. Our first is Scott Larson.
Yeah, first rule is press the button on the microphone.
It's got it. So, Scott Larson, past president of the ski club, and moved here 30 years ago to use the ski area. And as a president, truly understand the demand for that area, how nice it is, what a great area it is to be able to train. And both clubs, the ski club and the wakeboard club, have used that for years. And when I opened up the calendar to look at other clubs that have access to the rest of the lake, as i.e. the Bassmaster Club, wanting to completely shut it down 8 days, middle of summer and throughout the year, that's concerning. And that's not fair to the ski club and even the wakeboarders in the back or the members of the community that want to use that area, because it's a single-use area. We can't ski anywhere else. There's no course anywhere else in the entire lake for us to use. There's no protected area like that. So it creates a very slippery slope for the board to make a decision to allow another club to come in and say, hey, I want to use that area for this, where we can do it elsewhere. It's akin to mountain bikers wanting to take the golf course over to have a race, or use the tennis courts for RC racing contests or something like that. It's a very slippery slope, and it's a bad precedent to set if you allow it. So it's not fair to the ski club, it's not fair to the wakeboard club to allow somebody else to come in and take an area like this. And I ask you to consider that as you review the schedules that we work on for next year, or for this year, I guess now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next is Craig Brown.
Oh, hello. Craig Brown, 386881. Ditto Scott, whatever he said. I didn't even have to write anything down because he took the words right out of my mouth, what I would say. And I agree with Tom as well. We need to come up with a happy medium. My only concern, coming as the president from the wakeboard club, is that we submitted dates on his, the ski club and wakeboard club worked on this calendar back in November to iron out dates between the two clubs. Here it is, March, and we haven't gotten approval for these events. My only concern with tabling it to April is now our first event is scheduled for April 25th. Let's say let's hypothetically that April meeting falls on April 1st. That gives me 24 days to go to the Wake Association to get sanctioning for my events, because I can't do that until we get approval for the actual event. So that was it. I would just consider, ask the board to consider if there's an escalated timeline that we can put on it, as far as maybe possibly to meet in the middle of the month or 20 days or something to give a little bit of heads up. I imagine the ski club's in the same situation. They can't get sanctioning until they get their, solid approved dates. So that's it.
Sorry, I don't quite understand, because if you could just clarify for me. and we don't need to have a dialogue, I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. Tom is talking about scheduling between May and September, this special situation. And your concern is that, I mean, we're going to set a calendar that you guys all agree to well in advance, because it's just the 1st of March. So I don't quite understand what the issue is that you're talking about getting the sanctioning for your events.
Well, so back in November, we worked on dates that we had said, okay, these work for me, these work for you, excluding the timeline from Memorial Day to Labor Day. The summertime has never been something that we've allowed to hold an event. So now if all of a sudden that calendar request is going to completely change and we're going to be allowed to do that, I can't submit whatever dates I'm going to hold my events to the World Wake Association until those are set in stone. They won't pay for our sanctioning, or not pay for our sanctioning, but they won't tell us we're allowed to do the events and have them sanctioned as an event until I submit those dates.
Let me respond just a little bit. I'll share with you our story, which is a far worse story. We did the same thing. We have to have sanctioning, but our sanctioning was due by the end of the year. So we have to jump off a cliff and sanction events without a board approval, just in hopes that it's going to be approved. My guess is that as we move forward and this calendar is adjusted, most likely we are going to not have an event that we've already paid money for and sanctioned, because we had to do it at the time we had to do it, and that's unfortunate, but it's the situation that we're in today. And hopefully, I'm happy to hear that you don't have money already out. So, you can call somebody once you get that approval. I think that it's also a motivating factor right now to let's get everybody together, let's get a calendar done, and I don't see any reason why this board can't go forward with something that's reasonable next month. And you should be able to know that on, like you said, whether it's April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, whatever the day is.
Right now, on the 25th of April, you have two clubs for the same day and time. So
Yeah, it might be a good idea also to, maybe, I think Carrie probably already has the order in which events get requested.
Yes, I talked
so she
to
can prioritize those.
Bassmasters today, and they pulled out of that date.
Okay, so that date is open for wakeboard now,
Yes.
is that correct?
So would you be willing to revise your motion to give it a 30-day period of time to be executed?
Say that one more time?
Revise your motion to say that this has to be done in the next 30 days so we can approve it at the next meeting?
Sure. Let's say it can be done for the next 30 days. And I'll add that to the motion too, that it will be done at the next board meeting. And again, that's really predicated on the clubs. And if they bring to us something here, we can either say yes, or if they can't come to a decision, then we could come here next month and say no to everybody.
I understand. And what I'm hearing is it's very time sensitive and we can act. Let's just set a goal for ourselves, or set a requirement for ourselves.
Perfect, thank you.
No more member comments?
No.
Any final board comments? My only comment is, if we're going to go once a month, should we go 12 months and give them 12 days? I know that runs into the summer, but
I think the summer is just such a busy time, exceptionally busy time, that to take the lake away from the membership is really not a good thing to do. And, we've recognized for years, going back when the ski club was the only club that ever used the area. We had one event every 2 months, and only one time in the summertime. They always did one event before Memorial Day, one event after, and it just, in our impression is that it would be better to not close the lake during the times that are the busiest of the year. And now we've had more clubs and more clubs add on and more requests, and that's why this has gotten to the place that it's at. But between the ski course, like Scott said, being in the North Ski area, that's the only place anybody who wants to use a slalom course can go. And now with the wake enhancement that we've decided to let happen up there in the north area, it's just created even more demand for that particular area. So closing it in the summertime really doesn't make sense, at least on the weekends. We could entertain a weekday idea if we wanted to approach that in a different, probably a different motion.
okay. One last comment. If the club is using the front part of the North Ski Lake, what happens to the back side of the North Ski Lake?
It's kind of the both for both clubs. The clubs seem to like to be by the causeway. So when the ski course is being used, the backwater doesn't get used more because of water conditions. The skiers are looking for an absolutely flat condition, and if other boats are operating, it creates wave activity that moves into the course. When the wakeboard club is using it, They predominantly seem to use the front area where the slalom course is also, just because it's closer to where the people can spectate. Occasionally, I think they do run another boat in the back also, so they're at least able to use both areas, but more predominantly, everybody just uses the area right by the road.
So the Bassmasters couldn't, like, say, use the back part of the lake while the front was doing a tournament? I'm just asking questions.
I would say that it probably would not impact either club if a bass boat or a fishing boat was sitting there parked and not doing anything. Unfortunately, what we've had is sometimes we've allowed people, as we had a closure, still allow them to go back and fish thinking they'll be considerate, and sometimes we find ourselves getting bit in the butt, and people come back and just decide to plow through the event even though we thought they wouldn't. And so it's just easier just to, again, try and keep people out of the area at the time. And I think Craig has mentioned that his insurance says that there can't be any other boats in the area. Yeah, so that's another issue.
Okay, that's a pretty reasonable answer. So anyway, we have a first and a second. Any more board comments now?
I just need clarification on the motion. Are you saying just one club event per month or one event per club per month?
Yeah, one weekend, doesn't matter how many clubs, and that's kind of where we've gotten to today, is we've got numbers of clubs that are adding, and we could see more. So no matter what, there will always be just one event per month, and if there's 4 months and 4 clubs, then that means each club would get one event. Right now, we have, it seems like 3 clubs that are vying for a greater part of the year. Maybe, the fishing club will decide that it's okay to have later parts of the year, and the ski and wakeboard clubs will have the more warm water times of the year, and everybody will be able to get a couple days each.
Okay, one more clarification. I feel funny using the microphone sitting right next to you. But the ski club has tournaments that are 2 days.
Yeah.
So that would fit your definition of one event per month, because it's 2 days, but it's one event. Okay.
If that makes it easier, clarify it to be a Saturday and or Sunday. So if somebody wanted to have one either on Saturday or on Sunday or on both those days together, that would be one event. But splitting, say 2 days, calling one weekend and a second weekend, that's not the goal here. It's trying to keep it all minimized so that just only one weekend a month would get impacted. Sorry.
So the ski club could have something on Saturday and the wakeboard could have something on Sunday, or vice versa, or whatever. That would fit that definition.
If that could get worked out, sure.
Okay, oh, hi Alexa.
Sorry, Siri.
So I'm just trying, since we're making a motion, I just want to make sure I have it clear in my mind. Okay.
It's a good point. If 2 clubs wanted to get together and share a weekend, they could do that too.
Harmony, you have the motion typed in there?
That it's tabled with these revisions, yes.
Tom's made a motion to table the event and that, and providing guidance to the staff that one event.
One event per month in the month September through May, no matter how many clubs, just one
weekend per month. That's all for that. That can be
she's got
used.
No conflicts that I can see right now, and so we'll basically be just pulling the items off the calendar so that when we see the calendar next month, we'll only have a calendar that will represent one event per month. That's
one event so one event would be one weekend per month. So
yes.
There's going to be 1 week a month that's going to be set aside for events. That's what you're saying. Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's much clearer to talk about one weekend per month.
So 1 weekend per month. So, okay. So, Harmony has a motion. We have a first. We had a second? Okay. Any more board comment? Okay. All in favor? Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Scott, Craig, thank you very much for coming tonight. Appreciate your comments.
We're going to skip up
And
to
Scott, my dog has been fed, so we're okay.
We're going to skip up to 6.12, and that's going to be Lynn. We just want to change the sequence a little bit. We will cover all the other ones. Lynn, you ready?
Okay, so this is a 28-day reading. We briefly talked about this before. The background on this is the POA currently has the Sanction Club policy in effect. This policy designates the guidelines for groups requesting to be recognized as sanctioned organizations with the CLPOA. The policy outlines the requirements for these groups to request approval, renewal, and benefits of being recognized organization with the association. During the review process of the current clubs, it was determined that an additional category be created for groups that would like to continue use of the common area as an organized group, but may not operate in the same manner as a sanctioned club. With a large variety of clubs and groups in Canyon Lake, we realized that some of the groups operate in a more social manner than an organized structure. These social groups meet for various activities, meetings, and recreational type functions, but may not have bylaws, official meeting minutes, or be able to provide community service as required with the current sanctioned club policy. Staff has worked together to revise the attached sanctioned club policy to modify the guidelines for the groups requesting to become sanctioned clubs, as well as adding this new category for activity groups. Currently, the fiscal impact is to be determined. Right now, we budget costs associated with club activities in the operating budget, mostly within the activities department. So it's requested that the Board of Directors approve the 28-day reading of this revised sanctioned club and activity groups policy as attached. If I can just go over a couple of it for the membership, since it's the first time that they're seeing it. So we briefly talked about this. I mentioned that when we were doing the renewals, we knew there were some groups that weren't going to qualify, and to not make them a club was a concern. So we wanted to create this group where they were getting to use the common area as this organized group, but there is modifications to it because they would not meet the same criteria. So one thing that would be noticeable in the policy is they don't have to submit as many documents. An application, your roster, and your requests basically would be submitted for the group. One of the requirements that we decided to change also in addition to this is the requirement of members being Canyon Lake residents. We're reducing it down to 40% with the activity groups. We have noticed some of the club applications that came through, they do not have the minimum threshold. So this would essentially create that category for those groups that are smaller and would like to continue as an organized group. And then we also have changed community service requirements. So that is my report. Thank you.
Okay, Lynn, any questions for Lynn? Okay, do I have a motion? This is for a 28-day reading.
Where's my cheat sheet on this? I'll make a motion, we approve the 28-day reading of the Sanction Club and Activities Group policy.
Second?
I'll second.
Any member comments?
No.
Any board comments?
I'd just like to say again that this is all being done to enhance the value of the use of our property to the clubs, but at the same time to make sure that all of our members who are not in clubs have the right kind of access. The idea of having sanctioned clubs, as I understand it, goes way back in this community and has to do with clubs that give back to our community, and we have a lot of them, and really help make our community the fine community that it is, and that they should be given some priority and some extra deal. And the details are all in this document, and I think it's very good that we do that. But at the same time, we have clubs that either don't want to or cannot meet those criteria. We still want to encourage them. We still want to provide the publicity for them. And so their benefits are listed in here also. So I think this is a very positive move in the right direction.
Any more board comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
6.9, approval club sanctioning Canyon Lake Ocean Dwellers.
They have turned in all of the necessary paperwork as described below. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve or reject the Canyon Lake Ocean Dwellers as a club, effective today, March 3rd.
Any board questions for Carrie?
Yeah, the question is, do they meet the requirements that we've now established for sanctioned clubs?
Yes, they do.
And they have sufficient membership?
Yes, they do.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, do I have a
Oh, they
motion?
don't? Sorry.
Just I want to point out, the reason we moved 612 ahead of these two next items is because we had a potential change, which we just adopted for clubs policies, to include now a minimum number of members. And this first application does not have the number of members that we're looking to require for a club. So until the club grows a little bit in size, I'm going to make the motion that we do not approve this particular club until they meet the minimum membership.
Lynn, so they don't meet the minimum membership then? New standard.
Correct. The new policy would require a minimum of 20
And then
members.
as far as activities groups, do they meet the standard for activities group?
Technically, yes. If everything else was complete, yes.
So they could become an activities group, they meet the standard? Is that what you're saying?
Well, maybe I'll amend my motion to say that we reject the sanction club application and instead accept them as an activity club for today going forward.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any member comments? Harmony?
No.
Any more board comments?
Yeah, just a question, Lynn, if they up their membership and want to apply for club sanctioning, can they do that at any time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that's what we ought to encourage them to do.
Yes, sir. And can I add to that, with the club renewals, that would be something for the clubs that are also struggling with the membership. When you're going to be getting your notices this week, and we do have a couple that are also on the border, so, yes.
Okay, so no more comments from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Carrie, 6.10, approval club sanctioning request, Helping Hands Group.
Yes, they have also submitted to become a sanctioned club. They have completed the list of everything below. I don't know if they changed with that new rule change. No, they don't. Okay, so they're good for sanctioning.
They meet all the standards for club sanctioning?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Carrie? Can I have a motion?
Make the motion that we approve the Helping Hands Neighbors, Helping Hands Club, is that it?
Helping Hands Group.
Helping Hands Group as a Canyon Lake Sanction Club, effective today.
Okay.
And I guess maybe I'll say that these can be for the next, this is a 3-year approval through the end of 2022.
And probably contingent verification of membership roster.
Yeah, contingent of verification membership roster. And they have, and I assume all clubs that are new clubs will also get the guidelines that we expect from a sanctioned club.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments from the members? Harmony?
No.
Any further board comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
All right, we're back to Lynn. Modification to Fiesta Days guidelines and policies, I think, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry about that, I went too far. All right, so last month we brought a 28-day reading of this modification of the Fiesta Day guidelines and policies. The staff worked with the committee to update these guidelines and policies for holding this annual community event. Attached is the updated policy for review and approval by the board. I'm not aware of us getting any feedback from any members or the committee since it's gone out for 28-day reading. For those that weren't here last month, essentially, it's just a combination of the prior policy and the prior guidelines into one document. Thank you.
Any questions for Lynn? Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we pass a 28-day reading revised policies for the Fiesta Club. I got the wrong page. Oh, goodness, way wrong.
137, page 137.
137?
Or 204? Okay.
We'll get there.
One second.
Somebody else could help. Okay, move approval of modification of the Fiesta Day guidelines and policy.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Harmony, any member comment?
No.
Any further board comment? All in favor? Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, that brings us to 6.13, the fee schedule.
The Board of Directors has the authority to approve the schedule of fees for the 2020-2021 fiscal year. The attached schedule of fees was reviewed and approved by management and the Finance Committee. In addition, the approved fee schedule will be mailed along with the budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approve the schedule of fees as shown on the attachment for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2020.
Okay, any questions for Susan? Okay, do I have a motion?
I'd like to amend the fee schedule as follows. On the page listed as golf fees, under green fees, annual, change the annual two-person membership, which is new for this year, or returning for this year in some ways. Last year, that number was $3,500. We're going to change that number to $3,420 is my recommendation. This is also the recommendation of our golf professional Pat Kimball and staff's recommendation. The annual family membership will go from $3,500 to $3,800. All primetime rates stay the same. Under Twilight, the 9-hole and mid-adult rates increase from $22 up to $25. And under Super Twilight, the 18, 9, and mid-adult rates all increase to $25. The other play less than 10 holes, $10. 20 anytime rounds for 18 holes be $646. 20 anytime rounds, 9-hole, $425. And then another recommendation to remove from the fee schedule the section that talks about outside or non-member rates. We have an obligation to post rates to our members, but these are rates that apply to non-members. They also don't follow the same annual calendar that we have at the POA office for people who pay annually. An outside person, if they join in August, they renew in August. If they join in November, et cetera. Not only does this give us the ability to change things as we choose to, but this really didn't get analyzed, I don't think, this year, and we probably want to take another look at this, not tonight, but look at the rates and work with Pat to try and keep a current list, and I think the list always should be available at the golf course, but just not necessarily post it in the members book as to what the rates are for the community. Again, these are rates that our golf professional presented. I believe he's our guiding force in the golf course. He talked about the need to get ourselves in a more static move so that when we move one rate, we move all rates together, and this is the starting point. So I make the motion we approve the fee schedule as presented with the exception of the changes that I just noted. And then the other thing that I would say we need to go back to, which got changed on this particular schedule under both the annual two-person and the annual membership fees, is we previously described it as same tract and lot. Each person must have a current POA card. The description that's now been changed here assumes people are living here, or assumes that they have homes on lots, and we have members who don't have homes built on lots. So it's not like we're going to go out and do bed checks at night and check people if people are sleeping in a house. So the critical nature, I think, for our membership here is that the people who are going to sign up together are all members of the same tract and lot.
Okay, do I have a second?
Motion dies for lack of second.
Okay, we still have a motion on the original. Can I get a motion for some fee? We have a recommendation from the Finance Committee. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the fee schedule as submitted by the Finance Committee.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Harmony, do we have any member comments?
We do. Joe Washley? Okay. That's it then.
That's it? Any board comments?
I know the Finance Committee had a special meeting regarding this. This is an issue that's been a hot button since it was introduced at the workshops, and I would like to hear, somebody can tell me why the Finance Committee has chosen to stay with what they have.
I suggest we call Joe.
Joe Wishley, 3716, 433. To answer your question on that, Chris, when the Finance Committee does a budget, the different departments are divided up among different members of the committee, and they interview the managers, etc. So, for instance, I did member services and community patrol. Somebody else did something else. Our two members who interviewed Pat about the golf fees, Pat recommended the fees that are submitted here in your packet. And it went before the committee, and we all agreed with what he came up with, and we voted unanimously to accept these. Now later, more discussion came up. One of our board members spent some time with Pat going over things again, and they came up with new figures, which are the figures that Tom just gave you. At the budget meetings that we had here on 2 Thursday nights, at the last one, Dale said, look, we need you to get back and have another meeting and talk to Pat again, discuss this stuff, and come up with a final decision for this meeting tonight. We did that, and by the way, I had personally 2 meetings with Pat after the 2 members of our committee had interviewed him, and we stayed with the numbers. He never mentioned these new numbers. These came up later. So we had a meeting. We talked about it. Pat was at the meeting. We discussed it back and forth. We then had 2 motions. One was a motion that Tom has brought up for those figures there. And we voted, and there were 2 people that voted for that. We had another motion for these that are showing right here, and it was 5 votes to accept Pat's original numbers. So that's why this all came about. We bled this thing to death now, and I thought we were finished with it until Tom just spoke up when we got through that last meeting. So any other questions?
No more questions. Any other questions for Joe?
So I got to ask, in your mind, does Pat agree with the fee schedule that's here, or did the Finance Committee make a decision and Pat went along with it?
No. The Finance Committee agreed with Pat's originals.
I got that. I'm talking about after all this has happened.
No, Pat at the Finance Committee meeting, Pat was agreeing with the numbers that Tom just presented. But the board, what we felt we just didn't agree with it.
Okay, so-
And there's reasons that we didn't agree with it. Well, first off, you're taking the family deal. There's not going to be that many people to it with the new two-person thing. And we had all the numbers on this stuff. The new two-member deal, the idea was that from the beginning was that this should bring in additional people, some that are not annual members now at all, and you'd bring in, like, say, a husband and wife, one they'd have it for the two-person. It would bring in a number of people who, like one spouse has an annual, individual annual now, and the other doesn't because they don't play that much golf. But by doing this, it would bring a number of those people in to the two-person thing. The advantage of the annual and getting more people on the annuals is that when the weather's bad, when it's cold, might rain, people don't pay to play. But if they have an annual, we already have their money. If they're thinking about going out and playing other courses, that we have a better chance of them playing our course and not leaving. And if they leave, okay, fine, if they're an annual member, because we've already got their money. And so that's the backbone of this thing. And that's why the committee felt that this was the first thing Pat had, and the second thing Pat had, which was this, was the thing we should go with.
So just so I'm really clear in my mind, and I believe we don't charge enough for golf. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you came from Northern California.
Well, any sly remark about me rolls off my back like water. It doesn't matter.
That was a compliment.
You can say anything. I'm a Southern California boy that ended up in Northern California and was not able to teach them much. Anyway, everything that Pat has stood for is to raise our fees to a level that he believes are appropriate for our community. And the finance guy, just saying, I want to make sure I'm clear that our finance committee has decided that they want to keep the fees lower because they believe it's a better thing to do. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Any other board members want a question for Joe?
Not really a question for Joe, just to point out that, you're representing that Pat presented fees first and that they got changed. Pat was never at a meeting until a week ago Monday, and I think Steve can confirm that. Pat's made one presentation to the Finance Committee.
Oh, I know that.
Meeting,
I know that.
At that meeting, Pat said, these are the rates that I believe in, and two people in the room said, we believe that if that's what our golf professional who we pay to run the golf course believes in, then we should accept his recommendation. And like you said, only two people voted for it. Then after that, 5 golfers decided that the rates should stay down.
There weren't 5 golfers. Tom, we don't have 5 golfers on the thing.
Who are going to be positively impacted in that. We have the Finance Committee that said we need to raise equestrian rates. We need to raise boat fees. We need to raise rental dock fees. We need to raise campground fees. But in this case, for golfers, specific kinds of golfers, annual golfers that are couples, we're going to lower their fee by $460 a year. Every member in this community is being told you're raising the dues next year by $350. So everybody's going to pay more. But the select group of golfers is getting a lowering of the rates, and that makes absolutely no sense. And I just want to make, Steve just confirm that I'm not making this stuff up. Steve had a submitted list by Pat to him, and staff believed in that, and staff made the recommendation, and Pat made one presentation to us, which was a week ago Monday, and that's all. And everybody rejected his idea back on that meeting on Monday, his only time that he presented rates to the committee.
But he submitted it to members of the committee.
I think we're good, Joe.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
So, it's still.
All right,
like
any more board comments?
If we get that, Steve to confirm or deny what I just said about Pat and about staff's recommendation.
I think that's already been kind of noted. Any more board comments? All right, I'll make my comments. I was on the Finance Committee, I think I started about 8 years ago. First of all, I'm not a golfer, really. I have golfed on Canyon Lake maybe once a year for the past decade. I think literally every one of those times was either some special fundraiser I wanted to be part of, or I was golfing with my kids who wanted me to go golf with Dad. So I don't see myself as a golfer, somebody who goes, half the time I golf with my kids, it was like 4 or 5 holes. So I don't believe I would be considered a golfer. And I've been watching these fees for the past 8 years, and I've seen a couple attempts to raise fees in order to bring in income. And when I saw that happen, our history, in my opinion, is that we've always lost membership and in the end lost income. In my mind, the reality is that we need to gain market share in order to make this golf club viable. We're not going to really shift any corners in making this golf course more self-sufficient by simply adding a couple dollars and trying to bring a couple dollars in. We went through the exercise of raising the outside annuals by $600. We went from 40 to 20. Then the next year we raised it another 300. We went down to 10. We went out and did the annual golf. We shifted it in midstream to it went up to 2,400 from 1,900, something like that, 2,600. All of a sudden threw chaos into all the golfers. And so then they came back and they lowered it. All these shifting of the fees in these radical ways doesn't serve us in any way, in my mind. This is all in my mind. The other thing is if we keep bouncing these fees around, we're not going to be able to tell what the market's doing. If we gradually lower these fees and we start to see some market changes to where we can capitalize on some market shifts, that's huge information. And the information we're going to be able to gain from what market share we gained is incredibly valuable in determining the fees. I think it was like 8 years ago when Richard Presapia says, we need to really lean more on market fees than what the opinions of the parties are. And Richard kind of started down that road of what are we going to do for market fees? But if we keep bouncing the fees this way and that way and up, it's just going to be very difficult to us to analyze the fees, figure out where we can maximize our income. So I think the increases by the committee were basically slow. I think they're above inflation for the most part, rate increases where we're going to see what happens when we do this. And if in these rate increases and we're a little low, my opinion, what's going to happen is we're going to bring more market players to play. So even if we are a little low and people are getting cheaper golf, I think we're going to get more members to golf that'll make up for any dollar or two we would get by charging the higher fee. In the long run, again, my belief is that gaining market share and getting those golfers out to play is more important than the couple pennies we're going to get from golf fees. And there's another thing. That guy that's doing Twilight and the cheaper rates, that's a guy that may be going to work. That's a guy that may have a kid. That's a guy that we want to get started and play on our course. And if you look at your Access newbie golf course people, I bet you they're looking at Twilight and Super Twilight. And if we can get those new players out to play, that just again brings market share to the course, and in the long run I think we'll have better income, we'll have better play, we'll have better mixture of people. That's my comment.
So I agree with the idea. That's usually the way the markets work, is when you lower prices you get more, and when you raise prices they tend to run. Unfortunately, our history of the golf course is we've been haphazard. Some rates go up, some rates go down. Like you said, that's chaos, and that's what we're doing again this year. Some rates are going up and some rates are going down, trying to stop the chaos. But as an example, last year when the rate to be an annual golfer was $1,950, we lowered it to $1,900. The theory would be that would gain us more individual members. Unfortunately, it didn't work. We had actually less individual members this year than we did last year. So Pat's analysis of our play year after year is that we don't really change the level of play. The number of playing rounds every year is staying relatively flat. The only thing that changes when we change the fees is that we give people choices, and the choice is now going to be maybe to shift from fee 1 to fee 2 because that's a better option for them. So in this example, we had 22 people this year that were willing to pay $3,500 for 2 people to play golf. We're going to lower that to $3,040. That means we just gave away $10,000. The hope is that we get more people in, but when they come in, are they going to really be new people, or are they just going to be people that shifted from paying under a 20 card or under a daily rate? And my thought is that's more likely what's going to happen. We're really not going to gain that money back. We're just going to give it away. And if people are already content paying that $3,500 for 2 people to play annual golf here, I don't know why we would lower it and just give that money away. That's my thought.
Okay, any more comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to know if there are any other significant changes in the fees that we're charging. There's been no discussion about that, and I can't tell looking at this document where the changes are. Where's Susan?
Changes from last year, you mean?
Yeah. Is there any change from last year?
Yes, there's a few.
You're going to talk about golf. I don't want to talk about golf, okay?
Oh, I thought you were back on golf.
I'm off of golf. I'm
Okay,
trying
because
to
some
talk-
of them did go up.
We've got a whole bunch of pages here about fees, and all we want to talk about is golf, and I don't want to talk about golf anymore. I heard that story. I want to know what other fees have been changed.
We have increased the escrow fees, several of those. We went from $395 to $450 for our escrow package. We went from $175 to $200 for our lender questionnaire. Do you want me to go through all of the changes?
slide that you had at our budget workshops that showed what they were over the last 3 years?
Yes.
So that might be.
I don't remember seeing that.
It was attached in our documents. But that might be easy to show you.
There aren't that many, and I'm not hooked up to
This is-
those. I'm not hooked up to the screen, so I can just flip through if you like.
Just, you said the escrow fees are changing? The recording
Escrow fees, we have bumped up the setup fees from 40 to 50 and from 60 to 75 for after-hour setup fees. We have added a shoreline license agreement fee that's new for this year of $225. We've upped the lake use fees from 120 to 125 for 3 to 25 horsepower boats, and from 255 to 265 for boats over 26 horsepower. The boat dock fees have gone up from $1,100 to $1,200 for those docks without electric, and from $1,000 to $1,100 for the docks. I'm sorry, it was the opposite. $1,100 to $1,200 for docks with electric. $1,000 to $1,100 with docks without electric. We've raised some of the fees for the rentals of the common areas. The Roadrunner Park went up $5, Holiday Harbor $5. The snack bar area at Holiday Harbor went up $10, $5 for the pavilion at East Holiday Harbor. The Indian Beach stage went up from $75 to $100. Sunset Beach Room went from $150 to $175. The front lawn rental area went from $200 to $250. Facility rate for additional hours went from $100 to $125 per hour. The bar setup fee went from $100 to $125. The standard cleanup, setup, tear down labor went from $40 to $50, and from $60 to $70 for after hours. The lodge use fee went from $200 to $250. The facility rate for additional hours, $75 to $100 at the lodge. The bar setup fee also went up from $100 to $125. And the standard cleanup fees are the same, they went up the same rates. Country Club also raised their rental rates from $300 to $350 for the dining room, $100 to $125 for the patio, $100 to $125 for the magnolia room, from $75 to $100 for the additional hours rental rate. The security officer charge went from $25 to $30 per person per hour. Equestrian stall rentals went up across the board ratably. It went from, I don't know if you want me to read all of those. How
That's
much
okay.
was that percentage-wise?
So in essence, the fee structure has been reconsidered and has been raised. That's a good conclusion? Small amounts.
Small amounts,
And all those increases were recommended by staff
yes.
and reviewed by the Finance Committee?
That is correct.
And the Finance Committee messed around with them individually and decided what they thought was right and not right? Please say yes. I'm sorry, go
We
ahead.
reviewed and yes.
They reviewed and accepted
Yes.
all of those fees? Okay.
There was discussion where necessary.
Okay, any more comments?
Would it be possible next year to be able to put the before and after, so it'd be a little easier to see?
Susan?
I'm sorry?
Would it be possible next year when we do this, that we have what the current is and what the new is?
Absolutely.
I think it'd be a little bit easier for
Yes.
everybody to see.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. we
If
have
I
a-
could just make a comment on the escrow fees. The code is very specific that those fees need to be itemized, and it needs to identify which, it looks like we have an escrow package, and I think we need to separate out what the articles of incorporation cost, what the CC&Rs cost, what the bylaws cost separately per the code.
Thank you for pointing that out. We actually subcontract our escrow document service out to a third party. And when the title companies go online to order those, they are separated. And they're following the prescribed format, I believe.
Okay, so it's being done by a third party?
Yes.
Thank you.
The only thing I want to say is that, while I would love to spend a lot of time and dig into this conversation about the golf fees, I don't want to, actually. What I'd really like to say is that it's extremely important to me that I believe in our Finance Committee and they're doing their job the way they ought to, and it's being done across the board, which I believe. And so I'm going to vote in favor of this as an endorsement of what the Finance Committee has done on our behalf.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
4 in favor,
Opposed?
1 against, motion carries.
Moving on, 6.13, no, actually, we just finished that. 6.14, fiscal year 2021 operating budget. Susan?
Yes, the attached operating budget for the fiscal year 2021 is presented for approval by the board. The proposed operating budget has been reviewed and recommended by management and the Finance Committee. The fiscal impact of the proposed operating budget is a net subsidy of $11,651,710. It is recommended the Board of Directors approve the attached operating budget as part of the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2020.
Okay, any questions for Susan? Okay, do I have a motion? Or do you have a question, Chris? You can ask your question.
Go ahead, I can ask after the motion.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move we approve the operating budget as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Harmony, we have any member comments?
No, sir.
Any comments from the board?
I just had a question for Susan. We've had 2 workshops and we had lots of discussion. Has anything been changed in this budget as a result of that discussion?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Any other board comments?
Not to beleaguer golf, but I think, in my own view and Pat's view, we looked at the revenue numbers that are projected for golf. I think that they're overstated. I know we're at a point where it's just too late to do anything about it. So, because of that, I can't support this particular presentation.
Okay, any other comments?
I just believe that to put some bounds around that, Tom, there's a $982,000 plus change assessment, and the numbers that you were talking about, and you say that Pat were talking about, that number would be more like $925,000, which represents about a $60,000 delta. Is that correct? Okay, just for perspective, $60,000 is $60,000, okay.
Okay, any more board comments? Okay, let me call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Opposed?
4 in favor, 1 against, motion carried.
Okay. 6.15, approval of the fiscal year 2021 2021 reserve fund contributions. Susan?
Only the board can authorize the expenditure of reserve funds. The requested budgeted contributions for the repair and replacement reserve is $2,300,000. The requested contribution for the road reserve is $1 million. And the requested annual budgeted contributions for the capital improvement fund is $1,200,000. The fiscal impact of the proposed projects has been contemplated and incorporated into the budget for the fiscal year 2021. For the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2020, it is recommended the Board of Directors approve the funding levels of $2.3 million for the repair and replacement reserve fund, $1 million for the road reserve, and $1,200,000 for the capital improvement fund.
Any questions for Susan?
Yeah, Susan, at the workshop, you talked quite a bit about the reserve, the repair and replacement reserve. And as I recall, the repair and replacement reserve is something we're required by state law to fund based on a 3-year assessment, and we're on the 3rd year of our assessment. And in that 3-year assessment that we're working on, their recommendations have been that we set aside $3.2 million a year for our reserve, and we haven't done that for the last 3 years, so that a $2.3 million contribution to our repair and replacement reserve is really under the recommendations of the consultant by a significant amount.
You're referring to the schedule that the reserve specialist provided, and that is correct.
That's correct. And I guess the question is, why 2.3 instead of 3.3?
When we analyzed the 2.3 contribution, it fell within the acceptable limits of having an acceptable balance in our cash funds.
An acceptable balance based on what metric?
We have a spreadsheet that we use that gives us a percentage of total assets compared to the funds that we have reserved. And there's a range of percentage that most experts feel comfortable with, and that's a range from 30% to higher, up to 100%.
30 to 100%. And with this $2.3 million contribution to our reserve, what will our percentage be?
I could pull that up, but I believe it was 45%.
And I know that this is an area of concern because some people think that we waste money, that we shouldn't be setting aside money for reserves. Other people say we don't save money for reserves. This is really the thoughtful way we're supposed to do this based on the state law, and it makes good sense for us to do it. What it means, though, is that we've only set aside with this contribution 43% of the money that's needed to repair or replace the facilities that we have, which means that as we go forward into the future, all that additional money has to come from somewhere. This is not a case of just setting money aside for no good reason. As I looked at the 3-year projection by the consultant, and maybe you can correct me if this has been updated, it appears that we are saving enough money to get us through about 3 years, and that maybe 4 years with the things that are on the list that we're supposed to reserve on. While I'm not opposed to the $2.3 million, I think it's extremely important that we all understand that we're not saving as much money as we probably should, and that we are looking to the future to raise more money to do the kind of repairs that are necessary just to sustain this community the way it is right now.
And that percentage was 43%.
Okay. 43% is certainly on the low side of 30 to 100.
I'll just give you a comment on this. I think Tuscany Hills is somewhere 80% funded. I think Canyon Hills is 120% funded or 43% funded. So I'll talk more about it later, but I want to give you a perspective of what our neighbors are doing.
Do you want to talk more about the reserve? Or do you want to talk about the other reserves?
Let's go through the questions with Susan, then we'll make a motion, and then we'll have more discussion.
Okay.
Any more questions for Susan? Okay, can I have a motion to recommend the funding levels of the recommended by the Finance Committee? One caveat, though, and we'll amend this a little bit later in our next vote, and that's a kind of a rounding situation where we have to round the numbers. So I recommend the spending level and outlined in the recommendation, and we will use the reserve replacement to do a little bit of rounding in the end if necessary. Okay, so I make that motion.
You have made that motion?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second that.
Any more board comment? Oh, excuse me, any member comment?
No, sir.
Board comment. I just want to talk about the reserves a little bit. And the 35%, there's different methods to build the reserves. There's three methods. One is basically zero budgeting. That's where you aim to get at the end of the year, you have no money left. And then there's a baseline budgeting strategy, which basically says you aim to not have less than an X amount of dollars in the bank at the end of the year. And then the third number is the reserve percentage. And the reserve percentage is a good measure, and it's somewhat critically important because there's a professional organization of people that do reserve studies, and they're the ones that create this recommended percentage. It isn't created by the board. It's not created by one guy. There is a professional organization where these reserve study companies meet and they set these standards. So at the 43%, that's where this number comes from the analysts, not from us. That being said, about 2 years ago, I went through every line of the reserve study. I looked at it all. Ed Duziak was like me. He went through all the reserve study. And we think that most of these reserve study people recommend that we get to 100%. Well, we need to be 100% funded. We need to get $16-20 million in the bank. It was my opinion, Ed's opinion, that we use the strategic level, which says we make sure we just never go below a reasonable amount of money. We're a little bit different than most organizations, is that our risk and our repairs are spread across many items. Most HOAs have a pool and landscaping. So with a pool and landscaping, if their pool breaks or their building goes down, they've got to be able to cover that element. Our risk is spread across a number of buildings, a number of restaurants, a number of parks, a lake. So our risk is spread. So if we can set a reserve limit that we would never go below, that's what I believe in. That's not what the board believes, or the Finance Committee, but that's more of the philosophy they're taking. The reserve study basically says if we're going on this track to go to 100%, we're about $6 million short. Right, Susan, about $6 million? Susan, that was the number I think that was $6 million was the number we had underfunded? When you did the chart for the presentation, I think you said over the 6 years we had underfunded by about $6 million. So I believe that the truth is not that we need to have 20 million, and the truth is not that we have to have no money in the bank. The truth is somewhere into this 2,300 range. I believe it's a solid enough number to cover us. If things happen next year, we may have to make some adjustments, but overall, I myself as the president saying this is a number you can count on. This will take the risk out of the community. This should give us a balanced perspective of our reserve funds for many years to come. Things can change, but in my opinion, at this point, this is a fair and a reasonable budget. This is an honest budget. We're not manipulating the numbers. We're not stealing from Peter to pay Paul to make it look better. We're trying to be, in my mind, as honest and straightforward as possible. And yes, it's going to cause an increase. But from now on, there should not be this significant level of increases going on with the dues. There will be increases. There's always inflation, and the situation does change. But in my mind, I feel like I would encourage the future boards to really look, to try to stay somewhere within that inflation range, barring some big change to our situation. And I think it's pretty doable. So you shouldn't be seeing any more of these huge increases unless there's some unforeseen activity. So I just want to encourage, because I won't be on the board next year, that this board next year, take that philosophy to heart, so you don't come back next year and say, look what they're doing to us, they're making all these increases. Next year, if you look at the fees and you look at whatever the CPI is, we should be somewhere close to that. I'm not going to say that's going to be the number, and I'm not saying that something may happen and it may cause it to increase a little bit, but there should be no more of these big increases that we've had to go through. That's my comment.
So Dale, could you explain to me, last year, I believe the board said that we should have increases of $25, $25, and $15 to get caught up over a 3-year period, but decided that $25 was too big an ask, and so they went with 15, which means that we should be 15, 25, and 25. Now you're saying that we're doing 15, 29, and it's not all for this reserve, it's for a lot of other things, and we should be good from now on. I don't understand that.
I'm not good from now on. I'm saying we should be somewhat near the inflation rate. We shouldn't have to make it. It's just my opinion. I'm going to declare it's my opinion.
I appreciate that.
And I can't speak for what's going to happen in the future. I can't say what's going to happen to future boards or what they're going to see. But in my opinion, this is a pretty sound budget, and this is a pretty honest budget to the community. We're not pulling any punches. We're not misrepresenting. We're giving you the true budget. You should be able to go home at night after this budget and feel like we're properly funded as an organization.
I did find that slide, and it was 6.8 million.
So according to the reserve study, we're 6.8 million funded. But the basis of the decision is that we aim for 100% funding. That in my mind isn't necessary to 100%, but in my mind is that we have, a very adequate and fully reserved fund. But I think that their recommendation's probably a little high.
Other comment I have is that at the second workshop, question was raised at why we had to set aside $1.2 million for a capital improvement fund. The capital improvement fund is something that we set aside as a community because we want to enhance our facilities. It goes well beyond repair and replacing what we have to maintain what we have. I made the comment at the time that you could go to the website and you could see all the things we were thinking about, and that list was immediately reconsidered by us and made sure that it was accurate, and so you can do that. What we decided to do, I'm saying Jeannie and I decided to do, because we wanted to put some numbers alongside of the need to save $1.2 million. We saved $1 million last year, and you received, when you walked in, a spreadsheet that lists the projects that we have in the pipeline, and a very, very rough estimate of what those projects might cost. This is being provided to you as a means of letting you know what we have, what we're thinking about in terms of our capital improvement fund, and also down at the end of it, it lists some projects for the repair and replacement fund. We've taken our projects that we have and we've split them into some groups. We have projects that have been approved for development by boards, and this means that the board has approved funding for studies as necessary, conceptual plans, drawings, in order to get to a point where we can bid projects and then come forward with a request. Staff can come to us with a request for approval for construction, and you can look there. Those projects, which are mostly will be funded out of this capital improvement fund, tally to $1.3 million. These are all things that are under consideration right now, and the repair and replacement portion of the one project is listed there. That's something that we've already saved that money for. We have a number of projects that are approved for conceptual planning, and then we have projects that are under consideration. The projects that are approved for conceptual planning are listed there. The projects that are under consideration are things that we're talking about. This is not listed. The things that are under consideration is to let you know what we're thinking about. Certainly open to all of the ideas and suggestions that y'all have. I think you can imagine that these are things that have been talked about for a long time, and we wanted to put some numbers behind this so that you could know what we were thinking about to improve our community. And those projects tally to a little over $5 million. The repair and replacement projects that you see there are just things that are in the pipeline right now to be done that will be paid for out of our repair and replacement fund. I think it's good for you to understand the kind of things that we're thinking about and where the money is necessary. You know that I feel very strongly that we need to continue to run a very efficient organization. We don't want to waste anybody's money, and I believe that the Finance Committee and the staff have worked together, not always in I shouldn't say it that way. I should say they've worked together to come to consensus on how to efficiently spend our money, and they're very, very cautious about that. This notion that we waste money is unfounded in my mind. I do believe that it's important for us to make sure that we don't diminish the services we provide our members, that our members we have the operational staff that's necessary, and we provide facilities that are necessary, that our members do not have their services diminished, and anything they should be enhanced. The other things, I think that we have to constantly work to improve our community. It's written in our Articles of Incorporation, it's part of our purpose statement, that we will continue to improve our property values and improve our community to the benefit of all of us that are the members. And that's something that we have to take care of. That's what this fund is about. The good news is the $1 million we set aside a year for this is a small piece of money to folks, in my mind, for the things that we get. It does require us all to believe in the community of communities that we are. That the community, this community is built up of lake folks, of wakeboarders, of golfers, of tennis players, of equestrian people, and all the other activities that go on. And the wonderful thing about it is we pool our money and we do all the things that we come to agreement on we need to do without trying to account for who gets what. It's a process of saying, how do we become an incredible community that people are going to want to come here and be a part of, enhance our property values and enhance our quality of life. So this information is being provided to justify that. I'm very pleased that there's a motion on the floor to approve these recommendations from Finance at this level, and I certainly will support it.
And just comment on some of our projects. We not only do projects to make the community look better, we not only do projects for reserves, we also do projects that we call return on investment projects. We put money into things where we get money back. A couple of them is boat docks. We build a boat docks, the return on the investment is about 7 years. After that, it starts funding money back into the system so your dues can stay lower. We did some remodeling at the country club. We did that and some management changes, and we got a significant increase in the income coming out of the country club. We spent a couple of dollars making it a nicer place. We got some management, and our income rose significantly. The lake, where you up there, you see the golf course. We're tearing out the lake, and we're going to make it all nice for the golfers. Well, yes, it's going to be very nice for the golfers, but also I believe there's between $40,000 and $60,000 worth of water going through that hole into the ground every year. So by spending the $400,000 repairing that lake in 4 years, that'll essentially for about 5 years, we should get that money back, and we can save that $60,000. We're looking at getting some solar projects going so we can get some savings on that. We also did a whole project on the campground. The campground now is effective. People can use the power. Our income from the campground is probably one of the most income generated and reduced cost amenities we have. We're also looking at putting a patio out in front of this building so we can get more restaurant dining. So we not only just take your money to make things pretty, not only take your money to make it and fix it, we also take money and we put it in so we can get some money back. Any more comments? We've been a little winded. All right, call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Susan, back to you.
And finally, the last board action item regarding the budget is the annual assessment number. To comply with the California Civil Code and ensure that the members receive proper notification of the upcoming annual assessment, it is necessary for the Board of Directors to approve the annual assessments for fiscal year 2021. The fiscal impact of the proposed fees has been contemplated and incorporated into the budget for the fiscal year, which is on the agenda for your consideration. It is recommended that the Board of Directors approve the annual assessment in the amount of $3,365 to be effective May 1st, 2020. the board may vote on a different amount. The final approved annual assessment amount will be rounded in order to be evenly divided by 12. And I can already tell you, since there were no changes to all of the budget resolutions that I've just given to you, that we'll need to round this annual assessment amount to $3,360 in order for it to be evenly divided by 12.
And what's the number? I got that. Divide that by 12 for me.
$3,360 is $280 a month.
So the assessment will go to $280 a month.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And just as I repeat, the comment we're going to make a motion. Part of the motion should be that the rounding amount should be taken from the reserve funds, reserve replacement. It's probably couple $1,000.
It won't be much.
We have to pick a fund to round from, so. Yeah, repair and replacement, it'll affect it.
Okay, I move that the annual assessment be set at $280 a month based on the approved recommendations that we've already done, with the rounded amount adjusted within the repair and replacement fund.
I'll second.
Harmony, any member comments?
No.
Any further board comments?
I had you for member comments, but if we're okay? Okay. Come on up. I'm sorry, Jack Walmsley. Come on up.
Since I just got that tonight, I had to really stop and think about your program. I don't have anything against the program, with the exception of one thing that I would like to see us do, and I don't think it's been done. And maybe Eric would correct me on it. But you put aside $1 million for road reserves. Our roads are not in very good shape. And you use that $1 million up in 6 months. If you told Eric, I want all these roads fixed, starting right now, you'll use up that $1 million and nothing flat, because we haven't kept up with the roads and keeping them in good shape. So I think you're short on the $1 million, but until you take a complete survey of every road that we have, you really don't know where you stand. I don't think that survey's been taken. So anyway, I just recommend that we do take a survey of every single road so we know exactly what we're going to spend. And I don't know, maybe that's been done. It has been done, Eric? Well, that's good. There's no indication on it, but I didn't think that you look at some of the roads, they really need a lot of work, and that $1 million don't go very far.
Just a couple comments. Well, the recommendation for the road funding coming from way back was $1 million a year. We put the $1 million a year for many years. The last 2 years, we put $1.4 million in because we had issues with the roads and we are unsure about the funding mechanism for that. Well, we have a settlement agreement that is going to be significantly help Eric's $1 million. So that settlement agreement will give us the funds to do a significant amount of work on the roads. So yeah, I mean, we're not just looking at 1 million. There's a bucket in there that, you're right in that it is unknown. Next year we may have come back, and that may be a surprise, and we may have to make some adjustments. But basically, the best educated guess we have is this, and we know we can keep the roads working with the funds we have. We may not be the most economical way, but we can. And again, we talk about funding. There are things that may come up that are unknowns. The dredging the lake may come up sooner than we thought, and that may result in some special increase to the funds. But generally speaking, again, this is a good balance to the budget.
And just before you vote, the amount you'll have to adjust the the repair and replacement fund is $24,000, so it will take down that contribution to $2,276,000.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So do we have a first and a second? Any more member comments? No?
No.
Any more board comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 5 in favor, motion carried.
No,
I was going to say, we didn't get a vote
Oh,
on
I'm
it.
so
no
sorry.
for me.
I'm sorry. 4 in favor, 1 against, motion carried.
Sorry, I have to find my first page. I was off into the... Okay, members' comments. Do we have any cards for members' comments?
We do, our first is Samir Youssef, and I have something to pass out for everyone to review.
Good evening, Board. My name is Samir Youssef, 3719338. I own multiple properties in Canyon Lake. I've been Canyon Lake resident since 1974. One of the property I have in Channel Way, which I use it regularly because part of my family live there. We have two neighbors, one on 30251, and the second one is a 30279.
One second. If you're going to talk about your neighbors and...
No, I'm just talking, I'm just giving you where the problem coming in.
Okay,
We
we
have
would prefer if you
cars-
just, if you could generally identify them.
No, I just identified the location where the problem is going to start.
Okay, but you can give the specific information to Cheryl if there's specific concerns that have to do with ACC or...
No, it has nothing to do
Okay.
with that, no. What I have is, we have a parking problem. You can see picture in front of you. So many cars get parked there. Usually I can't even get my motorhome out of my garage. So it got to the point what my RV sat there for almost a year and a half. I could not use it because I could not take it out. You could see not one of those vehicles belong to me. They belong to two tenants across the street, which they use their property for rental. One, they use it for their kids go to college, so all their friends live there. So they have 9 cars. It got to the point what I went to the community patrol, let them to do something about it. They go in, they say we could mark it, but the problem is the minute we mark it, they back it up about 2 feet and we can't do nothing about it. And one of the pictures you could see, they could see here, even the street sweeper never swept the street for 4 years. That gives you an idea how bad it got. Then we have another vehicle constantly blocking the entrance to the house. And number 7 is show. I have a sister live there, she's 80 years old. If the ambulance came in to have to pick her up, how are they going to have to go in and get her out of there without all those cars blocking it? That's when they have to go beside the house to pull the stretcher out of there. I just come down here to ask an opinion of how we could resolve this problem. I own that property more than 37 years. Let's put a red curb in it, and I'd be more than happy to pay for it. Whatever the expenses is, labor or material, I'd be more than happy to pay for it. And the only one going to be suffering from really is my house, which the curb is. And that's the only way we're going to stop all those vehicles parked there. And they're parked there 24 hours a day in and day out. And when I try to ask him not to park there, one guy, he says, sue me. And that's the philosophy of a tenant is. And I appreciate if the board decide maybe we could, by the way, that's a corner property, and it's very dangerous at night when you start driving around. Many times car got hit there too. And if the board allowed to paint about 50 feet of a red curb, I'll appreciate it.
It's because this is on the agenda, there's really not much we can say or do tonight.
Yes.
But Steve, you want to raise your hand? I would like you to ask, after the meeting, go over and talk to Steve and kind of address your concerns. Steve Lee was here, he's on the FPC. If there's a parking problem that's as bad, at least it sounds as bad as what you're describing to me, then maybe we can look at some red paint to get some decent parking to the neighborhood. And Steve can talk to Corey too if there's some patrol issues. Steve, can you take that on a little bit? Okay, so Steve's going to help you out.
Thank you so much.
And Samir, I'm just not sure, it's not clear by these pictures. Are you saying that these are cars that are always there, or do they move regularly?
Yeah, they got 4 cars always there. They go to schools. If they go 2 days to school, that car will give me parked there for 4 days.
If there's a car that's not moving, you have the option to let community patrol.
Oh, yeah, they come in, they mark it with a choke, and what they do, they back it up, so he can do nothing about it. And Jordan, the community patrol, we went there, looked at him. I said, why don't take a picture of it so you can see it, that vehicle never been moved. And I gave him 10 different pictures for 10 different days. You could see how they park. And then he said, talk to Corey, which I contacted Corey. I see what he could do about it. So Corey informed him, go there for a week, see what we could do. Guess
Okay.
what? It's still there. Thank you so much.
Talk to Steve, please, after the meeting. In fact, the meeting should be over, this part will be over about 20
I
minutes.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Any other member comments?
Yes, next we have Lee Fowler. I'm not sure if he's here. So we'll skip Lee Fowler. I don't think he's here anymore. And Jack Walmsley is last.
One issue was brought up when you were talking about the skiing that kind of made me think a little bit about it, and that's in reference to the ski tournaments that you're having. And when you have a ski tournament, I'm assuming that you have insurance for that specific event, for coverage for the POA. Now, the problem that I think you might be running into, do you have coverage for Elsinore Valley Municipal Water and BLM? Because the property that you're using belongs to, the water belongs to Elsinore Valley Municipal Water, the land belongs to the BLM. So I think we would want to check with our insurance people to make sure, because if they're not covered, they're going to come back at the POA, regardless of whether you have insurance or not. That's my question. I don't know legally, but I think you really need to check into it, because if you're going to have an event and somebody gets killed or hurt very badly, which can happen in those type of events, and all we have is the insurance covering the POA, we got a problem. I'll leave it up.
Thank you. Are there any more comments?
No, sir.
Report of executive session, Lynn?
Sorry, my apologies. Today's executive session was called to order at 11 a.m. Items discussed on the agenda included 3 member-related discussion items. Legal provided an update and discussion on 5 items. There were 4 third-party contract discussion items and some discussion on personnel matters. The meeting concluded at 4:58 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, Journal Manager report.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. As usual, I'll refer all of you to the staff reports in your agenda. It's a very thick agenda. Tonight, we have some architectural appeals, but there's also a lot of good information in the staff reports that are in there. Starting with activities, they have a several-page report. Basically, activities have been planning for Fiesta Day, and as you heard earlier, for fireworks and 4th of July. Pool is opening mid-next month. Activities is getting ready for that. There's a very detailed communications report in your packet again, and they talk about everything that they're doing in all of our various departments and print media, social media, our mobile app. We're about to undergo a website refresh and redesign this year, and also a mobile app, pretty much a complete redo of our mobile app, the all-new look. If you use the mobile app, instead of saying a Civic Mobile, it'll be branded just for our community. It'll have our picture. It's specifically a Canyon Lake POA app, so that we're looking forward to that. Planning and Compliance also has a detailed report in there. It talks about everything they're doing and all the statistics and everything they're handling this month. It's weed abatement season, so if you have an empty lot, please take care of your weeds, or Cheryl will remind you. Operations also has a very lengthy, detailed report. Every month they elaborate on all the reserve spending that's going on. There's some larger items in there this month. We took care of a few regular repair and replacement projects while we had our pavement contractor at the country club. We did some other areas at the country club that weren't initially part of the paving project, but we had all the right crews there and we had a closure, and so we went and did some other projects. And so that you'll see that we spent a fair amount out of the reserve fund, and it's another reason why they want to budget a fair amount of money to put in there this year, because we've finally figured out how to spend it. And we hear a lot about that, and people say, look, stop spending all this money, but I consider our primary job is that this is a 50-year-old community. The communities around us are not 50 years old, and in many aspects we look 50 years old, and I think our job as an association is to keep up with the Joneses and keep up our property values, and that's what we're trying to do, and that isn't free. So every month in that operations report, you'll see details of the smaller items that we're doing and that aren't talked about here, and there's a lot of them. As usual, that department and Steve have been very busy with those smaller projects and several large projects. We have new audio equipment upgrade in this room. If you look back there, there's new speakers going to be installed, front and back. So we're looking for increased sound, better sound when we have concerts in here. So that's happening. I'm sure you've noticed the parking lot project is underway. We're doing phase 1 right now. And if you haven't taken a look at that, come down in the daytime and take a look, walk down by Sunset Beach, and it's going to be very nice. The retaining walls are in place, the curbs in place. It's going to be nice planters. It's going to be a walking path all the way around, and so we're really excited to get the lodge done. This is after the country club. This is the second worst parking lot that we have, and a good third of our $3.5 million project is happening in this location, and it's going to be a very nice transformation when we're done. So that's happening. Excuse me. Also happening here at the lodge is a very large pool renovation project. If you haven't taken a look in the back, you should. The whole entire old pool deck has been removed. It was failing badly, had a deck coating that was also failing badly, and then it had been painted very quickly the last couple seasons just to make it look halfway decent, and it was just really a bad mess. And so after 20 years, we're going to have an all-new pool deck and new plaster, and we're looking forward to new drainage, uplighting on the palm trees, additional speakers. Basically, with the new pool furniture we did last year, the pool area will be basically all new when we open mid next month, and so we're super excited for that. I don't have coronavirus, I'm just coughing, it's allergies. At the country club, we have a new monument sign and water feature. We're also doing new landscaping and drip irrigation in all the new planters in the parking lot over there, along the driveway, around the new entry monument. So we're looking, should be this month, all new landscaping in the country club parking lot. We also put a new flagpole in there by the monument sign, and so we're just putting the finishing touches on that project, and we're very proud of the transformation that we've made there over the last 2 or 3 years. I think we've really stepped up the country club a lot, and it's showing it. Another thing we did in that parking lot was some new privacy screen, and not sure how many people noticed this, but we have a very massive Southern California Edison substation in that country club parking lot, and we recently got permission and paid for. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was a nice improvement. We put dark brown privacy slats on that chain link fence, and so now you see half as much of the substation as you used to. It's a little more concealed. It's a small thing, but I think when the landscaping's done, it's another little improvement that'll go a long way to making that look better. Golf course lake, also at the country club. It's another nearly $400,000 project, I think. 3-something. The whole 13 lake has been completely demolished and completely refurbished right now, and that's another exciting project that we finally got going, and it's going to save us about $80,000 a year in water and should pay for itself in 4 years, and be a feature of our golf course that'll last to the next 50 years. And really kind of step up our golf course. It's already nice, and this dialing in the lake and bringing it up to current standards and lining it will really help us for the next 50 years over there. Lucky Cove is another thing. If you live off Canyon Lake Drive North, I forget what street is that, Steve? Near Lucky Cove, Steelhead or Windward, okay. I knew somebody would know. So over by Windward and Canyon Lake Drive North, there is a little cove called Lucky Cove, and there used to be a fishing dock there, and we took it out because it was very unsafe, and there were stairs down to the dock, and a lot of people that used to take their kids there, go fishing there, have let us know that they were not happy that it got taken away, and I'm happy to let them know that we're finally replacing that little fishing dock. So if you live in that area, it's another nice addition we're putting back. It's another good use of reserve funds. It just got taken out because it was hazardous, and I'm sorry to say it took several years to replace, but we're doing it. Another fairly large project is the small dog park improvements. That's coming along very nice. In a few weeks, you'll see one of the nicest dog parks anywhere in Southern California. It's mow curbs, DG pathways, artificial turf, mounding, trees, and I went there this morning, a couple shade structures, and it's pretty much the fanciest dog park I've ever seen. And so we're hoping that the dog community is pleased with the results from this. We hear a lot from them, and we're really doing our best to make the nicest park possible. So cross your fingers. The pump track, we met with the city and our designers last month, and the designers are working hard to on a checklist of items that the city gave them and adding some required elements to the plans. And so it doesn't seem like anything's happening, but the designers are at work and they're drawing, and we're getting ready to finalize those plans and turn them into the city. It's never stopped moving. It's been moving kind of slowly, but it is moving. Also in the operations report, you'll see a summary of what all the committees are doing. And every month, Elaine in the operations department does a good job of summarizing what each of the committees are doing. It's a short recap of the minutes from their meetings. And so if you want to know what the committees are doing, also read the operations report. We have a couple RFPs upcoming. Later this month or early next month, we'll be putting out an RFP for the golf maintenance contract. And hopefully in about the same time frame, the lodge interior and front patio improvements. We have a bunch of 20-year-old finishes here in this building. The marble floor out here is 20-year-old and cracked and badly needs replacement. Same thing goes for paint and carpet and upholstery and furniture, and all those things are in the repair and replacement budget. And so we hired professionals to help us choose all of those finishes together and really upgrade the lodge. And so that's an RFP that we've been talking about and we'll be working on. I know Thomas back there is excited to hear that. So you should see those RFPs public, the golf maintenance RFP and the lodge renovation upgrade finishes, front patio, in the next 45 days, I would say. And that's all I have. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, they're a very busy group. They do a lot of, try to get a lot done. And I always tell Eric, Eric, how many jobs are you doing? He said, I got about 20. I said, you know what? You got to take at least 3 of those and give them to some of your staff because you just got to let it go. But he's taking it on. Pretty amazing. Look at that guy, too. Steve, too. Thank you. Okay, corporate counsel.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, the POA is in the process of settling with EVMWD. Thank you to everyone who came out on February 12th. We're discussing a number of your comments with EVMWD in the court as appropriate. The final approval hearing is March 10th, and we'll have more to report after that.
Okay, we have staff reports as written, so they're in your packets. That's what that is. And finally, we're coming down to board comments. Any board member want to go first?
Jack, just to kind of touch on what you were bringing up, if you didn't, maybe you didn't see it during the club resanctioning process, but we had many meetings and there was discussion about how to move forward, and we sent out renewal packages to the clubs. And one of those renewal package items included a hold harmless for the association for what you were describing, having the clubs be responsible for their own events and carry their own insurance. And we got an incredible amount of pushback on that item. And ultimately, the association agreed that we would put a limit on their responsibility. So at this point, all clubs, no matter where they are, no matter what they do in this association, they have a maximum, is it what, $1,500, I think? $1,500 is their maximum liability responsibility for any event that happens inside of this association. And, the honest answer is the POA's insurance is what's taking place. And these are all sanctioned organizations, so they come under the POA's umbrella. But, the honest answer is that the POA and their insurance is what's on the line for any event that happens in Canyon Lake, unless there's some other insurance. And in the case of Ski Club, and I know Wakeboard Club, we pay sanctioning fees for our events, and it includes insurance for the event for everybody that's a participant. So there might be others that include that too. I don't know. But I would say for the most part, you can count on an event that happens in Canyon Lake probably is being covered by the POA's insurance. Harmony, I want to wish you well. Harmony won't be here for the next maybe few meetings. She's going to be on a little hiatus, and we wish you and Adam well. We'll miss you. You'll be out of here for all of the good stuff like re-elections and the new board when we get back.
On purpose, yes.
On purpose,
Thank you.
exactly. She planned it this way. So we'll see you hopefully in a few months, and good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to keep my comments really short because we still have 5 things to get through. So thank you all for bearing with us through this process tonight. So a few of you I know have to stick around a little bit longer, so we'll get to you real quickly. Thank you.
I'd just like to add my thanks to Eric and Steve and the entire staff for everything that's going on around here. There is some theme that says that we run around wasting money doing blunders on our pet projects. And those are words out of Facebook. Don't you love it? I do read it, but I don't respond. And it's not true, of course. We are dedicated to doing what needs to be done to make this community all that it is and can continue to be. I want to encourage you again to think about running for the board. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience. Pull your papers, come on down and join us. Call me up if you'd like to talk about that. I'll be happy to talk. The other thing I want to say is something we've talked about in our emails to you is the 2020 census is coming up. And I don't know how you feel about that, how you feel about reporting it out, and whether you think that's an invasion of your privacy. But the reality is that 2020 census is used by the federal government to figure out how they're going to spend their billions of dollars. And there's a huge amount of money per person per year that goes to each state based on that. So if you don't cooperate, your share of that's not going to make it to us. They're going to send you a chance in the mail to respond. They're going to come and follow up with you. I would encourage you to make it easy and fill out your mail survey. I would also encourage you to not be concerned about the confidentiality of that information. My wife is a genealogist, as maybe some of you are, and any genealogist will tell you that you can't get their hands on that information for 70 years. They're all celebrating the release of the 1950 census that's going to happen sometime this year. So that information is tied up tight for a long, long time. It will not disclose your information. So I'd like you to encourage you to cooperate on that. Thank you.
The only thing I'll comment, it's been a long night, is, and I've said this before, but for those of you that are not on the website with alerts, you're missing on a lot of things. I do travel a fair bit, and you know what? I enjoy getting these type of alerts because I know what's going on back home when I'm not there. But one particular one that I found really interesting is when you look at the project pages and the pictures. you'll be amazed. These are current pictures that are going on almost instantaneously. So for those of you that are not on our website, I would suggest you get it with the alerts. It's one of the nice features that we provide for our community. Thank you.
Thank you for sitting through all our conversations. I'll keep it short. Just one thank you to the Finance Committee for all their work. They work really hard on the budget. They've been working really hard on the budgets for 7 years. Actually, more the part I've been with them for 7 years. So they've been working hard every year to make sure that there's reviews and checks and balances to our budget. I want to thank you guys. So anyway, thank you guys for coming and being involved. Okay, we're going to adjourn for a little bit. Most of you can go. We have a few ACC matters to address. We're going to take about a 10-minute break so we can get a cup of coffee or a cookie, and we'll come back. Okay, it's time, I think, to bring it in. I hear. All right, let's everybody get to the sheet. We'll get started here. We're going to start, and the first person was Clifford Marsh. Clifford, I would tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to recluse myself. He's my neighbor, and he's a very good neighbor. I like Clifford, and he's just want to let you know he's a great neighbor. So beyond that, I'll let you guys do your discussions.
Well, I'd like to put it on.
In that regard, I'll take charge of the meeting. How's that? I'll give it back to you.
I would like to put it on record, too, that we like Mr. Marsh as well.
I'm sorry,
Thank
could you
you.
say it again?
I said I would like to put it on record that we like Mr. Marsh as well. Okay, so
Well,
for this evening,
congratulations.
Mr. Marsh is actually here. He is appealing to the Board of Directors for a denial of some parking strips that are located in the front yard. There's a little bit of back history on this one, so just forgive me, I'm going to go ahead and read what I basically wrote. The paver strips were initially brought to the Planning Compliance Department attention from a member complaint, and this complaint, like I said, happened years ago, not while Mr. Marsh had the property. An application at the time was submitted and denied because of the location of the strips that would be traverse the front of the property. The CC&Rs provided determination of front yards being the shortest dimension abutting the street. Therefore, the parking strips are in violation of the community setback, that no structure to be approved and not to transverse the front, as well as PC 5.10. The previous member appealed to the board back on April 1st of 2014. The Board of Directors sustained the ACC's decision to reject. However, they postponed enforcement without issuing a period of time to postpone the enforcement. So, not understanding why that happened, we're having now to bring this back to the board. And the BC 5.1 was approved by the board in order to stop the parking of large vehicles that would hide and block the view of the front of the house. Now, Mr. Marsh's property is a little bit unique because it is a corner lot. And if memory serves me correct, if we can go ahead and go to Exhibit A, which shows you the plan of where the actual parking strips are located. The actual location of the parking strips is a little further closer to the actual curb. And if you can see that this is actually a corner lot, and so his front yard is not, his front door is not on the front of the property. It's actually on the long portion of the properties where his front yard is at. And so they're using this area there for some additional parking. If you go to Exhibit B, it actually shows you a picture of what this.
By the way, this photograph was prior to my purchase of the home?
Absolutely, absolutely. This was actually a picture that was taken back prior to Mr. Marsh owning the property. But this actually gives the indication of the reason why that it is a CC&R violation and why they don't want to have large vehicles blocking the side of the street. So currently, right now, because of it being a CC&R violation, the staff recommends that the Board of Directors uphold the ACC decision and deny the pavers closest to Continental and have them removed, or at least one section to be removed. And staff further recommends that the board issue a 30-day time frame to complete this. At this present time, I'm going to go ahead and give the mic over to Mr. Marsh.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate going into the history of this, and you're right, it's something that I inherited when we purchased the property. And as such, I have some of the background stuff that was left by the previous owner. And so I've been going through a lot of this, and there's several letters in here from Donna O'Brien back from 2014, 2013, and in here these letters reference that according to the architectural guidelines, CCRs, front yards are to be kept open for your property on the corner. This is the first 32 feet from the back curb on Continental. So I go to that, and then I go to the planning and compliance section of the CC&Rs, and in it has in their front property line, which you mentioned, the lot boundary line that is abutting the right-of-way of the street on which the lot abuts. A corner lot shall be deemed to have a front property line on the street with the shortest dimension, which you mentioned. Okay, so obviously that's not the front of my house. It's not it may be from the Architectural Control Committee standpoint the front of my house, but the front of my house and the address of my house is on Comanche Circle, which is the wide part of the house. So the other thing that I want to mention is that in here it says the previous letters mentioned 32-foot setback, but if I go to PC 2.4 front yard setback, it says the area between the front property line and a parallel line 20 feet deep into the property. This is also called the front yard. So if you look at that layout that was put up there before, it is 20 feet from the curb, okay, is where the first piece of the parking strip is at. So in that regard, I don't think it's a violation. I don't know why the previous letters from 2013, 2014 mention a 32-foot setback, because that's certainly not inside the planning and compliance documents that I have for this year.
If I may, I can address that for you.
Okay.
What you're failing to remember is that there is a community setback that you did not count. So the first, I believe it's going to be 12 feet on that side. So that's where the 32 feet comes in. So the first 12 feet is considered POA property. It's the community setback. Then we're talking about the front yard setback, which is then 20 feet.
Okay. All right. Very good. So I have some handouts too, if you don't mind. I can hand them out.
Please bring them up.
So, of course, when I filed the appeal, one of the things that I brought up was that there are several properties within Canyon Lake, several properties that have parking on both sides and of the street. So I just want to, on the first page of the handout, right underneath where it says Canyon Lake corner lots, underneath it says definition of corner lots, and this is the definition that's inside PC 8.8. It's also what most realtors references, a definition of a corner lot. So a lot which abuts streets on two or more adjacent sides. Okay, so I mean that sounds pretty rudimentary, right? But when we look at it and we think of the narrow part of the lot being the front yard, like my property, like many others in Canyon Lake, use the wide part of the property for their front yard. So if you look at the second page, you'll notice, and excuse my drawing skills, it's not very good, right? I'm not an artist by any way, but it kind of shows where the difference, regardless of which of the first two figures you look at, what's considered to be the official front and what's considered to be the address front. Okay, and the same, mine would be similar to figure 2, where I have what I would call a parallel parking strip. The neighbor across the street from me at 30451 Comanche Circle also has a parallel parking strip that's already approved. And they use it all the time. It's been there since I came. So I wanted to go around the community a little bit. I wanted to find out a little bit more about what's previously been approved. Okay, so I got one of these nice little realtor maps, Canyon Lake, and I got my daughter's, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I got my daughter's colored markers, and I went through and I marked all the different properties. I went to every single corner lot in Canyon Lake and marked them up, and I may not be able to count dots real well, so my numbers that I have on the front page may be a little bit off, but I color-coded these things so that I would know the difference. And so, the black ones, the corner lots with the parking on one side meets the PC requirements, and then there's the ones that are the perpendicular parking, like in figure number 1, and then the ones that are circular parking with no additional parking strips, which I don't have a figure on because there's really no need for it. And then the other two are parallel parking, where you have an official front like mine, and then purple was circular with additional perpendicular or parallel or both. And so what I found is, if you go to the second page, what I found is that there's a significant number of homes that have parking strips that are corner lots that have parking strips on both sides of the house. Whether it's the wide side or whether it's the narrow side doesn't seem to matter. Okay, and those numbers that I tallied are on the first page. So if you look at it, the ones that on the second list on red, perpendicular parking strips on the official front, there's 71. So 17% of the corner lots in Canyon Lake have perpendicular parking on the front side, on the narrow side. Okay, if you go down to the blue, which is like mine, parallel parking strip on the official front, it's 2%. If you go to the green, which means that there's parking on both the narrow side and the wide side, okay, it's 4%. And then you have these ones that are in purple where they have additional perpendicular or parallel parking. Even though they're circular, they'll have a parking strip which could be parallel or it could be perpendicular. In some cases, it's both. In some cases, there's two parallel, one on each side of the circular drive. Wow. What a mess, huh? They're all over the place. It seems like everything has gotten approved at one time or another because it's everywhere. And worrying about parking a motorhome in the front of the house, which is really the side of my house, doesn't really seem to make a lot of sense to me. It's not the front of my house. The front of my house is clean and clear. It goes out onto Comanche Circle. Okay, it doesn't face Continental. The only thing I have on Continental is two little windows for bedrooms. That's it. So, as you drive through the neighborhood, or as I drove through the neighborhood, one of the things I noticed is it's not just the corner lots, okay? It's not just the corner lots, but things have been approved for lots that are facing the street that are just single, where they have a single side of the lot facing the street, where people have motorhomes and boats and things like that that are parked in front. So my whole point is that, all this stuff has been approved before. It seems to me like it's set a precedence. Why am I being denied the approval when everybody else, you got what, 28% of the corner lots, right, that have some form of parking on both sides of the lot? 28%. So, I'm going to say, if anybody in here has a corner lot, you probably got parking on both sides, right? You got a good chance. A third of the lots have parking on both sides. So if it's already been approved, it's already been gone through the process, why don't I get the approval? Why do I get denied?
I could answer that. The way you look at it is incorrect. The front 20-foot setback, which is from the back of the community setback to the front of the house, that's 20 feet. If you start to compare other homes, some other lots have done, on a corner, have done a variance and put the 20 feet in the side. You do not have 20 feet from here to the, you do not have it from the community setback to the corner of the house there. And that's a big difference. What the mailing address for your house, that was set up by the post office and has nothing to do with what is the front of your house.
So what about the 8 properties that I mentioned, the 8 other properties that I mentioned that already have parallel parking that are on the side? And some of these are right on the curb. I mean, there's no offset, there's no setback. They are literally concrete on the curb, and they're parking boats and motorhomes on them. And now that seems to be okay.
Okay, if I may address that. Back in 2019, the board challenged the committee to to revise our rules. And one of the biggest reasons they wanted to is because the front of the houses were becoming blocked with the big vehicles. And so what we did is we came up with the new PC 5.10, which then allows for us to be able to not approve anything that's going to block the front of the house. So yes, you're going to find many, many homes that have, on the side, in the front. The issue with your property is that we're talking about a CC&R and not just a rule. Because the front of your property is deemed as the side yard there, is actually where you're considering your side yard, where the actual strips are, that's a CC&R. They deemed it, but whatever the shortest end of the street that abuts, that's what they're calling the front. And so that's the reason why we're here tonight.
Okay, so variances were approved for other properties prior to that action in 2019. Is that correct?
I have to have information to be able to know.
They must have been, because they're there. They exist, okay?
Not always,
so
because...
this has been existing since, as far as I can tell from going back through the history, since 2013. I bought the property in 2015. So, I mean, this has been there. It's been there the whole time I've owned the property, right? It's been there the whole time. It's just that nothing was ever enforced about it, okay? As you mentioned in your introduction. So,
I'm sure you've had this conversation with these folks, that's why you're here. So what I'd really like to do is...
I have not had this conversation with them at all, no.
What conversation have we not had?
You denied his request.
No, he's not been denied. The previous owner was denied. And then the actual application was denied by the committee. There's in the file, you'll see.
No, I got that. I got that. So did he even know this was coming? Did he come before the ACC and
Yes.
have a conversation
Yes,
with
he did.
about this? So
I did not come before the ACC and have a conversation, but I did fill out a form, and I did submit the form, and then I received a letter saying that my request was denied.
What we mean by is an application was reviewed by the committee and rejected. That's the reason why it's now here.
Was he offered a chance to come in and talk to you about it?
Yes.
I don't know if he was offered a chance. I believe that he filled out the board appeal form, which they have every right to come to the board for.
Okay, so which of these pictures in here is his property? I'm a little confused. A current picture. This is 2015.
Yeah, we don't have a current picture. I don't believe that will be there. You might have a current picture.
Are these my county maps? Are these ours?
Yes.
Or do those submitted to us?
Yes.
So are there trees all along Continental there that this is behind?
It sits behind mounds of rocks and I think 6 palm trees. So it's actually hidden from the street from the palm trees.
So we don't have a current picture of, are you parking? I'm sorry, are you parking something there right now? Is that how this all started?
No, I'm not parking anything there right now.
Okay, but you want to park something there?
I want to have the ability to be able to use it should I need it.
Okay, and the picture that we don't have is the fact that there's a berm of rock and some palm trees and stuff basically screening this area from the street.
I do have a picture that is from prior to my prior to me buying
Okay,
the
so that's what
property.
we're
but-
looking at right there with the silver trailer. So that's the palm trees and the rock little berm that you're talking about right there.
Yeah, I
If you
can't
can
see
see
what
the
you're saying.
picture.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what
that's
we're
right.
referring to?
This gives you a little different angle. And again, this was from prior to me purchasing the house.
Yeah, I'd like to get clear on the time frame. Look, reading this, it looks like you are the owner as of February of 15, right?
Yes, I bought the
So that
property, I
picture is-
bought the property February 9th of
So
2015.
that picture is January 15, so that's the prior owner.
Prior owner.
And according to what this says here is that the prior owner made an application for those paver strips in that location, that it was denied, went through the same process you're going through here. The board upheld the ACC's decision of denying the pavers, and then it looks like you came into the picture.
Yeah, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that they made an application, the previous owners made an application for a sidewalk instead of for a parking strip, and then they added a strip, instead of trying to get the parking strip to begin with. So, again, I've lived there with any problem. I haven't had any problem since I've been there. I mean, nobody said anything. I've had 2 different things done to my house. I got an approval for a barbecue island in the backyard. I put in a patio cover. The inspectors walk all over the top of this parking strip. Nobody said anything for the past 5 years until recently, and the primary reason was because I came to the POA office and said that I'd like to try and get this approved, because I don't want to be stuck with a violation, and that's what started the process.
That is correct. A letter did go out to him stating that an application was required. The inspector actually did not go through the file at the time to see that there was a postponed enforcement, but even at the fact, it would still have needed to come back to the board for an actual time frame on this postponed enforcement.
Has there ever been any conversation about revisiting what we described to be the front of a house in our rules?
That, once again, that would be a CCNR, so we would have to be able to change that by the vote of the community. He makes perfect sense, and I agree with what he's saying, that this is the side yard for him, and that his front yard is the long portion on Comanche, correct?
And is clear.
And
There's
it's
nothing
very
in front of
clear, but the CCNR they describe the front of the house being the shortest end. And so that is the reason why the committee cannot approve it.
So help me understand this. Did the CCNR say that he can't park anything in this area?
That is correct as well, which is the community setback. It can't traverse the front. So then this would be considered the front.
That's a CCNR that was put into place last year, right?
No, that's the CCNR. That's something that was back in 1968. The PC 5.10 is a addition and also an explanation of the CCNRs with including, more verbiage and added information.
So this reads that it's the shortest distance abutting the street. Which street? There's 2 streets. There's, the one that's on one side and the one.
The shortest end abutting a street.
And does it matter what his property address is as far as whether it's on Street A or Street B? It's just whatever the street is that's closest?
That is true.
The member didn't appeal to the committee. He appealed direct to the board. I want to point out one thing is that the owner that did this applied for a sidewalk and then put in the parking strip without a permit. One thing that is possible on a corner lot, especially his lot, is that he can put in parking strips perpendicular to Continental. These are parallel parking strips. He can put them in perpendicular and that would be allowed. So if he doesn't mind removing that one set of strips that he has, place them perpendicular to Continental, or even cement a driveway on Continental, you could do that.
So help me understand that with regard to what the CCNR say, because we don't have what the CCNR say here, I don't think.
The
I find it odd, because I'm thinking the CCNRs were probably envisioning wanting to make sure that we had a clear sight lines along our streets. We didn't want any fences, we didn't want anything parked there, and so that's kind of where I'm thinking this is at. But then you say it would be okay if he parked perpendicular, which would block that. So that's why I still want to know what the CCNR actually says.
If you'll notice on the far east side, the right side of the front on Continental, there's quite a bit of space between the house and the side yard on the right side. I don't know if you could bring that up.
Again, when I went through the neighborhood and I looked there, I mean, there's ones that are parallel, like directly across the street, there's one that's parallel, and there's ones that are perpendicular that go past the back of the house, like you're describing, and there's ones that don't, so.
One of the things that we continually struggle with is that this community is filled with CCNR violations. Almost every appeal we hear comes down to a CCNR violation. And there were a number of years, maybe decades, I don't know, because I've only been here for 4.5 years, where boards have ignored the CCNRs. And we said, we've really got to stop doing that, because our community is changing character because we're not paying attention to our CCNRs. And so while I appreciate what you're saying, and it's fascinating to me that the survey that you did, a lot of work, I appreciate you doing that. I don't know how many of those properties are under consideration right now, or how many of those folks are going to get under consideration because you've identified them now. I don't know how that's going to go, but the reality is that we are trying to clean up our enforcement and our compliance with our CCNRs. All that long-winded stuff is to say that's not a reason that we buy into, that other people have been allowed to do it. I dare say that no one has been permitted to do that in the last 4 or 5 years. You probably could say nobody's ever been permitted to do that, but the board has allowed it to exist.
That is correct.
Okay. So my question again, and John, maybe what you're saying is, you're saying that he could park perpendicular, but I assume he'd have to back up and not park in any of this community setback area. Is that correct? You're talking about infringing on his backyard here.
Correct. If can you go? I don't have
this
your
is
pictures.
where
I don't
the
know
plot
which one
plan
it is.
doesn't match with what the picture shows to me.
Yeah. Can you bring up the one that has a plot plan on it with the yellow in front?
There you go.
Okay. So notice the distance between here, the back of the house, or the side of the house on this side. He could put in parking strips right in here, or even a driveway, and it would not be a problem. It would not block the front of the house.
My question to you is how far out can his parking area go toward toward Continental, if he does that?
He could go all the way to the street, and that would be
So
acceptable.
you're saying the CCNRs will permit him to go all the way to the street and park and block the view,
Well, he wouldn't be blocking.
but the CCNRs will not allow him to park parallel to block what is, quote, the front of his house. It's really the side of his house that has 2 small windows. That's why I asked.
That's exactly
That's why I asked, what do the CCNRs actually say?
Let's forget where his front door actually is, and let's say the front of the house is where the strips are. We would actually ask him to put in an actual driveway.
Say that again, please.
Correct.
This is the house right now. From that picture with the trailers in it, the trailers across this way. What they're saying is that they can take the trailer and slide it in here between this house and this house along the fence line.
But there's a fence line there, and it doesn't look like there's enough room. But that doesn't matter.
There's not enough room.
Huh?
I don't believe there's enough
See,
room.
this drawing here would lead you to believe that there's, if I tried to scale what this, it looked like there's 25 feet there.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much even.
Maybe the roof hangs out a long ways. I don't know.
Exactly, the roof hangs over, so I don't think it's 25 feet.
It appears that this is like 10 feet here, and then there's 11 feet off to an angle. So there's probably around at least 15 feet.
So, Cheryl, please. Help me understand what the CCNRs are trying to accomplish. Or what they actually say, because it's getting confusing now for me.
For identifying purposes, for us to be able to know where the front is, the actual CCNRs state that at the shortest end of the property that abuts the street is considered the front. That's one CCNR. There's another CCNR that basically states that nothing can traverse the front of the property. And then there's another CCNR that gives height restrictions. I mean, there's a lot of CCNR restrictions. But if we were to forget where his actual front door is, and we were to actually state that that's the front of his house, and if he wanted to have additional parking, what he would do would be put in an actual driveway. And what I would do is put it off to the side of the house as if that was the front.
So what you're permitting that because it would not be blocking what is
That is correct.
called the front of the house?
And it's not traversing, it's perpendicular, if that's the word.
And tell me again if this would require a variance from us to allow him to do this. Is that what that would take?
Are you saying if you left this here, would it require a variance?
Well, right now, he's not parking there, so is it against the rule for him to have two sidewalks that go nowhere? Or does the problem come when he parks something there?
It's when something's parked there.
Okay, fine. So my question is, if we want to make sure that he can park something there, can we go for a variance if we think that that particular rule doesn't make sense, or is there, that's not what variances are about?
No, that's not. It has to do with the topography of his lot, that basically he would like to have what every other lot has. Not any other lot would he allow to have somebody traverse the front of their property.
So
The best thing to do
the driveway
is-
John was talking about would be in that area beyond the house. So when you say traverse the property in front of the house, you're really talking about the extension of the front of the house on that side.
That is, well, yes. What I would suggest for the board tonight, is to maybe afford an opportunity for Mr. Marsh to come visit with the committee, to see if they can come up with some sort of resolve.
I wasn't given that option. I mean, I was just look back at the letters that I received back.
We're talking about giving you that option now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But yeah, it was mentioned before that you asked if I was able to address them before, and I wasn't, so.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
but I personally, I haven't got to find out from my fellow board members, I'm personally struggling to try to understand how we can accommodate this. And we are bound, to follow our CCNRs. We really can't just ignore them. I think it's rather clever of the board previously to support you and then say
Yes.
he doesn't have to remove it. That's clever.
It is
Kick that can down the road.
And if I may also just address one thing, the Davis-Sterling basically states that we have to send a board appeal anytime the committee rejects something. And so I believe that sometimes that can be construed as that you only have the option of going to the board. So that's something that we can address, in the future to make sure that we have some sort of verbiage in there that gives them an option.
Okay, Tom. Each of you to comment on this. Tom, you want to comment? Do you have an opinion?
I agree with Gerald. Let's have him go talk to them, work it out. That's always the best way. I mean, I envision this is that you've already been to them, and there's still an issue, and so that's why it's been brought to the board. But I think, they deserve and you deserve the time to try and figure out a way to resolve it. And that's what I would recommend doing too.
Jeannie?
I concur.
Me too.
I really appreciate what you said about wanting to not have a violation on your property. I don't think I've ever heard that sitting at this table, and I do appreciate, because you're like me, I do go anything not to have a violation. So I do appreciate this offer. I don't know how they're going to figure this out with you, but let's give it a go. I don't think, let the minutes show that we concurred on that resolution.
So is it a motion or a consensus?
Okay, let's
I
have
make a motion that Mr. Marsh meet with the ACC committee and see if we can resolve this issue to the satisfaction of both parties.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
4 in favor, 1 abstention, motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good luck.
Why don't we start with that first?
Huh?
start with that first?
Why did we start with that?
So why didn't we start with that?
All right. Matthew?
I do need to recuse myself from this one, but I'm going to sit at the table. I was told that was okay.
No, you can't.
Who are you calling next? Because I have,
Matthew Swenson?
okay,
That's B. That's why for B. Who do you have
Okay.
for?
all right, sorry about that. Okay, so,
Do you yield the floor back to the chairman?
You're doing a good job.
is the pronunciation of your name Svensson? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I don't want to say it wrong. Okay. Mr. Matthew Svensson is here to appeal the ACC denial for non-conforming roof material. This is a little bit of a confusing one, so please bear with me. I'm going to try to explain this to you all. The inspector noted a roofing work that was in progress without approval, and so we obviously sent a notice for the application to be submitted to the committee. In October, the application was submitted and reviewed in November. The committee, due to a CCNR violation, denied the application with the condition that a recorded variance is required for the non-conforming roof material. This is another one of those CCNRs that only give us a certain amount of approvable material. And so back in 2015, we came up with a recorded variance process as long as the material that was chosen was fire retardant, because in California, we have the issue that shake shingles are no longer allowed. And so there are various different types of roofing material that can be put down. One of them is TPO roofing, torch down, and things like that. So at this present time, we basically just wanted Mr. Svensson to fill out the form, get the recorded variance, and pay the fee of $225. It is my understanding that he did not want to pay, that he felt that he had already had a variance or this was already a done deal. We investigated the file and found that there was no variance on file for a non-conforming roof material. The original roofing material, which was approved, not necessarily what he was replacing, was hot mop and rock, which was one of the actual approved materials in the CCNRs. The material Mr. Svensson used to replace was torch down roofing, which is something the committee would absolutely approve as long as a recorded variance was filled out. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and let Mr. Svensson speak.
It'll be red when it's right. Just make it red. There you go.
There we go. All right, so I kind of just have to laugh a little bit at this. So I had a termite problem. We started on the fascia. While we were doing the fascia work, I got a letter that says that we were doing roof work, which we weren't even into the roof yet. The termite problem turned out to be greater, like you said earlier, Chris. No construction project ever goes without unseen things, right? So anyways, we started moving the gravel back on the on the hot mop and gravel. I found out that there was a lot of deterioration underneath and more termite infestation. So in the process, I got another letter that came back saying that they denied the permit to be doing the termite inspection work, and then turned it into a roof issue. So where I'm going with this is, I haven't even submitted my roof plan yet. So it started raining in November, so I threw down torch down with tarps over the top of it just to try to protect the room that's underneath it. I went and talked to Marlon, and he said, oh, you have to pay for a variance for the hot mop and gravel roof because it was never approved for the top of the sunroom. And I said, hang on a sec. I go, the property transferred in escrow, on an escrow demand, there was nothing about that. So we had that discussion. Then I got another letter that came back and said, torch down. The only reason there's torch down up there was because I was trying to protect the new underlayment and everything that was up there to start moving forward. So I didn't want to pay the variance fee to put down for a torch down roof because it's not what I want to do. And really what I want to do is submit a plan for a new roof because the hot mop and gravel, which is up on top, and the shingles on the side are failing. It looks horrible and it's leaking. So what I want to do is submit a plan to go to a metal roof and improve the energy efficiency of the home and to a metal roof. But I never got there because I can't submit that plan until I pay for a variance on a torch down. So
Is anyone else seeing the?
So what you're saying is basically that this is a temporary fix until you can do the, and how long do you think you're going to be between now and when you?
Well, Dale, this stalled out for 4 months now because I haven't been able to submit a real plan because I have to sit on an appeal because I didn't want to pay $225 because I put torch down to just protect what was underneath.
So the question is, when you're done with your project, all the torch down is going to be invisible, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be covered with a.
If I can get the metal roof approved.
If you get the metal roof approved,
Yes.
then the torch down will not be an issue.
No. It'll still require a variance, but Eric, the variance, I was told that I can't put the new roof plan in until I pay for the variance on the torch down that went down.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if I hear you right, your temporary thing is torch down, which requires a variance. That's where we are today. You're stalled. Your ultimate final product is metal roofing, like standing seam metal roofing. That'll look nice. That's not allowed by the CCNRs. That requires a variance anyway. I suggest you pay the $225 and figure out a way to do a little twofer variance, temporary torch down, ultimate metal roofing, and be done with this.
Okay, so this is where
what's wrong with
this
that?
is where we're stalled out. Though.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing's wrong with that. All we need to know is what the actual, because what we go on the variance actually is the type of material that is going to be approved. So if it's torch down or if it's actually metal roofing, that's what's placed on there.
Okay, so maybe you charge him a bond for the temporary, which is returned to him when the temporary is covered up with the metal.
Okay?
I think I like the direction you're heading. You're basically saying, let's get some skin from you so we can hold on to it, so that if you don't perform, we have your bond money. And then if you do perform, then we're going to go down and send you down to get a variance for your new material. That's essentially what you're saying?
Sure. I mean, but why don't I just pay the $225 in variance with the real plan and forget about the torch down that's on it and move forward with just presenting the new roof plan?
That is absolutely acceptable to do
You can't even
that.
see the torch down. It's underneath tarps right now.
So I think they're giving you a good option here. All you have to do is put down the funds for the variance. They'll hold the funds for the variance until you complete your plan submission. Then they'll file the variance using the funds you provided. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Not necessarily. What was suggested was to put a bond down and also pay for the $225 for the variance, so we can get it recorded. All we really need to know is what you're going to be finishing your roof off with, and that's what it's all about.
Right.
Whether there's torch down on there or not, or whether there's a torch down and then there's metal roofing, they both would need a variance.
Right, absolutely, I understand that. So what I want to do is put a final roof plan together and get it submitted, but I was told that I could not do that until I paid for the variance for the torch down that was laid on top.
So could you clarify that for me? Is that
So I
true?
think Cheryl and I are on the same page. So, what's that? Yeah, we'll run parallels across it, put insulation, because right now the house is built with shiplap, under sheathing, and tiles over it. It's horribly energy inefficient. So what we'd like to do is take all the shingles off of it, take the hot mop and gravel off the top of the other one, and go to a standing metal roof. And run parallels across so you can attach the roofing to it. In between there, run insulation so it makes the home more energy efficient, and have a very nice looking metal roof.
What's our remodeling bond don't we have a remodeling bond? I know we have a new house bond.
Not for roofing.
We don't have a roofing
We
bond.
don't require a bond. The only thing we're going to require is the $225 for the recorded variance.
For the variance.
So help me understand. If I assume you're going to do this sooner than later, like
I'm going to start it in December, yes.
Okay, no, but I'm going toward trying to figure out how to give you a piece of time to get this done.
Sure.
So if we agree to do that, you'll submit for your roof variance, and you can submit all that very quickly.
Yes.
Like within weeks.
Yes.
And you guys can consider and approve that. We've got a temporary solution out there, and then you can deal with the variance based on what he submits, and we can let this go right now. We can hold this until that happens.
There's no necessary need to hold it because we'll ask him, to come on in and submit it, and then the process starts. That's really all he needs to do.
So you will allow him to process you allow him to process the plans for the whole project without having the variance in place now, but by the time the project is complete, the appropriate variance needs to be in place. I think that's what he's saying.
That is correct, and just so that it's understood, there was never any mention to me in any of the appeals work that a metal roof was wanted. It was just the torch down, and that's the reason why we felt that the torch down is something that would need a variance, just like the metal roof would need a variance.
Yeah, and torch down was never actually mentioned in any of the...
Okay, so I'd like to move that we ask you to go back and submit your plans, get approval for what you want to do with the roof, take care of the variance, treat the torch down as a temporary fix, and comply with what ACC requires.
Perfect.
Expecting this is all going to happen in the next month.
Sure, absolutely, Chris, not a problem.
And is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
4 in favor, 1 abstention, motion carried.
I would actually like to see you come in and set up an appointment with the committee to talk about your roof. Would that be fair? So you can, when you have an idea what you want to do, come talk to us and we'll kind of lead you on the way to getting this thing approved, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
The one thing that
He's
wasn't...
the chairperson.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm John, the chairperson.
Okay.
Well, what's not shown on, or explained on there, is you actually have 2 sides of your roof which are tiled.
Please, you need to have a conversation with them. Sooner the better.
We're good, Chris, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, it took over again.
I think I hope you'll change. I know you will. Just give me a hard time. Ashley Murray, that's next. Ashley Murray.
Is Mr. Carglanuti here?
Hugo?
It doesn't appear as if they are here.
Okay. We don't need to take any action? They have a second try.
Customary for us to make sure that Mr. Carglanuti was actually the leasee, but was given permission by the owner to act on their behalf. So there is a violation on this. So I think that what we should do is actually postpone, I guess, to put it on for next month. And we'll see if we can contact them.
So you recommend we table it till next month?
Correct.
I move we table this for the next month and encourage the representative to show up.
Yes.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Okay, Justin Burton?
Okay, so Mr. Burton here is appealing the ACC denial for propane screening located in the community setback. Again, this is not an easy one. This is going to be a little bit confusing, so I'm going to try to explain it as much as possible. Mr. Burton was approved to build a pool, spa, so on and so forth, in December of 2018. And upon an inspection, it was noticed that the front yard was not according to the approved plan. That would be Exhibit B. If we can go ahead and go straight to Exhibit B. Okay, is that it? Hold on, let me just make sure.
I can't tell from Exhibit B where the streets are. Could you please clarify that for me?
Okay, you can actually stay right there. Go back one more, Lynn, right there. That's fine. So we can probably try to explain it from there. Exhibit B actually is a plan, and that was the proposed plan that was denied by the ACC committee coming back. So anyway, moving forward here, the plan included a propane tank which required screening from view of the street with a block wall. The approved plan, which is Exhibit A, shows the propane tank set with a block wall surrounding the tank. The current location, Exhibit B, is not according to the approved plan and in violation of PC 7.7. The propane tank is now located in the community setback with a white vinyl fence screening it from the view of the street, which is Exhibit C through D, which are the pictures right here. Propane and screening must be relocated out of the community setback. Member needs to resubmit to the committee to an approved location. This is kind of like dual fold here. We have a setback issue on both sides, the community and the side setback. And so right now, what we believe in Exhibit A, which was the actual first approval, one more right there, it shows that, if you can see there where the propane tank is, Lynn, there you go. The propane tank is actually set down and it's surrounded by the block walls.
It was never set down.
Okay, so this is what I believe that the committee approved, okay? What happened was the next slide, which is Exhibit B, is what actually happened. So I'm going to go ahead and allow Mr. Burton the opportunity to explain what had happened. The one thing I just want to point out is that the original plan, which was approved by the committee, was not done. It was done, and what he did do is currently what this actually is right here.
So I did make a change, and unfortunately, when you're going into moving the propane tank and everything, you pull the gas from your house, and it was in the rear of the property, which is now concrete and a pool and patio and everything like that, where you're going to put everything for a pool. So as we moved this propane tank to the front of the house, and I put it in Exhibit A, where it's right in the center, we submitted a plan to put a block wall around it, so right there it shows 42-inch high block wall, which is the same exact height as the safety rail for the retaining wall. I placed the propane tank there, and we look at it and go, by the time we put this structure around it, my house sits about 5-6 feet below the street level. You would have no view of the bottom, and it blocked the front window, blocks the entire front view of the house is standing from the street. So that's when I did make a decision to move the propane tank, and then as the permits came to close, we came to the situation that we're in, where I had made changes and did not get approval.
My question is, why can't you move it out of the setback up towards the front of the house? And I've seen them in the front yard. I think they're acceptable in front yards. They just have to be fenced in. But you can't put them it's in the 12-foot setback, that's what you're saying?
Yes, it's in the 12-foot setback, the community setback.
So it looks like there's plenty of room to move your tank into a approvable location. And it just doesn't look that difficult to me. Especially, you've got elevation changes. It'd be very easy to detect that tank and literally make it invisible.
I mean, I have, of course, I have lots of options of moving it and stuff like that. I have spent a lot of time and money and trying to make this a beautiful project. I've spent a lot of money on this project on my house to make the community, make it look nice, and everybody that walks by says, it looks amazing. I can't wait to see what you do with it. Unfortunately, I've been now stuck with this now into 3 months of not accomplishing anything. I mean, I could definitely move it. I could, I have a couple proposals, to see if we can make this work so I don't have to try to get a crane out to lift the propane tank and move it. I could definitely lower my fencing around it to make it the suitable within the 3 feet height.
But that won't take it out of the setback, and that's the problem.
So
The setbacks a tough rule for us to violate. We have to have some reason for that, as if your topography somehow denies you a basic right to your land. Your land actually, the topography actually enhances your ability to put the tank in a way that it just becomes a non-event to your home. As much as I hate to, say it's the right, in my world, it looks like not a real complicated thing to do. Yeah, you did some fencing. Yeah, to move the cables over is going to be a little complicated, but it just doesn't look that complicated. And I'll be honest, we've held standard to people that had to spend a whole lot of money and energy to not violate the rules. And this, to me, looks pretty simple.
Why did you not come back once you made the decision to make the change? Why didn't you go back to ACC and let them know what you were doing to see if they could give you some input at that time?
So, as you guys heard earlier, I never got like another committee hearing to actually sit down and try to fix this. It was automatically come up here to sit with the board of directors.
No, my question is, when you made the decision to change from the approved plan, Exhibit A, to Exhibit B, why did you at that time not go to ACC and say, I've had to change my plan, this is what I want to do? So that they could tell you that your propane tank, before it was installed, was in the 12-foot setback.
Yeah, and that's where I went to the planning office and talked to them about propane tank, and they said, well, we don't have no limitations on that. We treat it more like an appliance. And so I said, okay, so I kind of went down and they...
What he's trying to say is that we don't have jurisdiction over actual propane, that is a city, but what we do have jurisdiction over is the screening. And the screening and the setback.
And then the setback, yeah.
You went to the city, or you went back to the POA?
The city.
So you went to the city planning department, but yet it was the ACC, it was the POA that approved your plan.
This original plan was from my pool company.
Okay.
And then
But that's what was approved by ACC, your original plan, Exhibit A. So,
Yes, correct.
okay. So the thing that broke down is when you decided to change the plan, you went to the city instead of going to the ACC, who approved the plans originally.
Yes.
Okay.
Was there any confusion in your mind that ACC was going to come out and inspect to make sure that you built the plan? That's something that they when they give you your permit and permission to do all that, they make it pretty clear.
No, and the permits and everything originally were pulled through the pool company, and so I never really dealt with it. And when I made these changes, this was at right as we're finishing up with the pool and concrete and all that stuff. So I kind of didn't really cross my mind to go make sure that everything was approved before we finished fencing and doing this other stuff.
What are the rules regarding, if there are any, digging down and putting this subterranean? I see you have some planter boxes in the front.
Yeah.
And they look like they could accommodate possibly the size of this tank. Can we get the tank lowered into one of those boxes and then run everything from there? Would that be a suitable location? I noticed that some lots that I've seen, and they're more upslope lots, but they have tanks that are actually submerged or dug into their front yards, and they kind of get low and out of the way so that they're not really a nuisance. In your case, I understand you're on a downslope lot, so even at least in this planter, the worst is going to be hopefully that the top of the planter that you already accept is going to be the height of whatever might be inside of it.
That could be a solution, and just like the previous one, what I would actually suggest that if Mr. Burton is willing to come with the ACC, that we can probably come up with some sort of a solution or a resolve.
That's what I was going to recommend, because it's not our job to redesign what's happened. I don't want you thinking that we're going to sit here and be engineers and redesign this for you. So I would recommend going back, like Cheryl said, back to the ACC.
Is that a motion, by the way?
Well, I would like just to clarify one item first, but no matter what you do, I want to clarify that the propane tank itself will have to be moved because it's in the setback. So you are going to have to, the way I read this, that is going to be part of the solution, as long as you're prepared for that. So I make a motion that we ask Mr. Burton to go back to ACC with his concerns and ACC's concerns and see if we can come up with a conclusion that meets everybody's needs.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
So, a meeting with the, with
Just go
Cheryl.
ahead and do me a favor and give us a call tomorrow, and we can set up a time where you can meet with the committee.
Okay,
I just want to make sure you understand that you're going to have to move the tank.
I understand.
That's one of the things that she said.
I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
thought it just-
All in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor, motion carried.
Tom? Tom Munzer, is that how you say it? Munzer. Okay.
Okay, so for our final one this evening, Mr. Tom Munzer is appealing the ACC denial for a block wall/gate on POA property. During an escrow inspection, it was noticed that a portion of the rear wall and the gate was built which encroaches onto the POA Evans Park West. The picture of the wall and the gate does not show the angle of the lot, which is on Exhibit A. However, if you take a look at the proposed map, it shows the property lines in the shape of a rectangular, which is Exhibit B.
Actually, it's a triangle. The
I'm
piece
sorry?
of land in question is a triangle.
That is correct. The wall and gate actually crosses over the member's property line and encroaches onto Evans Park. Upon investigation of the file, the wall was approved to be placed on the property lines back in 2003, which is Exhibit D and E. No gate was ever approved. Escrow inspections are done as a courtesy. Over the years, the escrow inspection process has changed and has become more efficient. Back in 2003, a survey was not required for property lines and walls and fences. However, that changed for various reasons in 2013. Now, when a wall or fence is applied for, a survey and neighbors' notarized agreements are now required. It is the member's responsibility to ensure accuracy of all improvements. Now, after a recent inspection, it was noticed that a portion of this wall and the gate are now located on the property. Therefore, the ACC committee does not have the authority to approve or give away POA property. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Munzer.
Oh, thank you. We purchased the home in 2001, and as she said, we had the wall, we got a permit for the wall, and we had it built. We had it inspected several times, and it was approved. And at no time in that process did anyone come out from the POA and say, hey, you're encroaching on the land here. You need to make a change. It's been there since 2003, 17 years. And so this just came up because we're in the middle of an escrow and we're selling the property. And there was an existing, I have a picture here if you want to see it. I know it was there prior to our purchasing the property. There was an existing gate and fence there that blocked that was there, because all we did is followed the same general line. The other part of it is that I have pictures of what our property is and what the POA land looks like. There's the gate right there.
That's the old gate.
That's the old gate, yeah. And that's looking from Evans Park into the gate, into our property.
Is also the old gate?
Yeah, you would see the old gate there too, yeah. So, what we're just in a nutshell asking for is, I guess, a license to, for that to stay in the condition it is. The POA is the beneficiary of a beautiful block wall there on the right where you see that palm tree. That's our backyard, and that wall, it makes that turn. If at any point in time, and after we built that wall within, if I understand the law, 4 years, somebody would have come out and said to us, hey, you're encroached on the land, you need to move the wall. We would have moved the wall because, we understand, we would understand that. When we had this done, we're not any awareness of that at all, that that was POA land, that there was that little triangle of land there.
I just want to ask, can I follow the story? I just want to ask a question. So he had a permit to build the wall. The wall was built. Did we do an inspection on the wall?
Yes.
Back in 2003, I'm assuming that there was an inspection.
And we approved the location at the time.
Correct.
So we
And
approved,
yes.
so we approved his wall.
Mhm.
It kind of puts us in a position of,
Well, like I was stating before 2013, we never required surveys. Now we require the surveys to ensure that walls are on property lines and not encroaching onto others' properties, including POA property. But that didn't start until 2013. So what happened back in 2003, 10 years prior to that, I'm not sure.
yeah, I appreciate that. And what I see is that we approved the location, the way he built it. And if there was a harm to the community or the harm to the POA, I would say he needs to move it. I'm just not seeing any harm.
No, I don't say that there's any harm. I'm saying that if the board should approve this, a license agreement would have to be.
Oh, is that what you're asking for, a license to grow? Oh,
Yeah, for the life of the improvement.
The only question here is the $225. Is that right?
It's going to be $225 for the license agreement, yes.
So if we want to own our part in this game, we could pay the $225 and not require him to pay it.
If the board should approve, should do so, yes, that would be their choice.
So you're here to get out from under the $225 payment? Are you here to because you don't want to pay the $225?
Payment. I didn't know anything about that. I'm here because, I just basically did some rudimentary research, and David Sterling says that, POA had a 4-year period of time to come out and tell you that you needed to move the wall, and they didn't do that. So I didn't know anything about the license fee at that time, or no one has mentioned that.
So Cheryl, are you good if the license is put in place, you're happy? This resolves this?
It would resolve it, yes.
So the license agreement basically say you can use it until we decide we need it. I'm looking at that. I'm not seeing us needing it for a whole long time. Well, the license would continue with the land, so you could, right?
Yes, it's recorded and it would carry on.
It'd carry on to whoever purchased it. At some point, if we wanted to go and claim that land back, we could. I'm looking at it. I don't really see that happening for a long time. But we still need to protect everybody and to follow our rules. We need the licensing agreement.
So they want us to pay $225?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, we basically, it may seem like a light thing to you, but in terms of an escrow and having an escrow close within a matter of 10 days, and needing to have this done, and realizing that at no time did anyone come out and say anything to us, and that we followed all the rules at the time. And that's what's important here, is that the rules at the time that were in place, we followed those. Now, you change the rules, I understand that, but
I apologize, sir, if you felt that we were taking your issue lightly. We weren't. We were just kind of giggling at just the whole
No,
evening.
I
apologize.
think you're
if it
taking
seemed-
it. Saying, no, well, okay, so I didn't know that at the time. No one had mentioned that we had to pay a $225 license fee, but okay.
Well, that's kind of be my question too, is, are you able at the at the committee level to extend that offer to him, or is that only a board decision that we?
It's a board decision because it's POA
So
property.
unfortunately, yeah, you weren't given the opportunity to even hear about that until you came here tonight.
Okay.
So good thing you came here tonight.
Now,
And sorry we only meet once a month so that we can't do it more expeditiously.
no, I appreciate the time. So who do I make the $225 check to? Yes.
Cheryl, raise your hand, please.
Cheryl will walk you through the process.
Come on over to the office tomorrow and we can help walk you through that process. That paperwork can be drafted up in the next few days.
Okay, and then will the escrow be notified that this is not a violation and clear, because otherwise?
As soon as you sign the paperwork, we will notify
Okay. All right, so I'll be there tomorrow morning. Okay.
I'd just like to say that this isn't the first time we've heard of previous owners building across POA land and having to go through this process. You showed us pictures of an existing fence that you didn't build, and so there was reason to believe that that was your property, and you replaced it with a concrete block fence. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. There was a gate there and a fence that went there.
So all, from your standpoint, everything is great. We just found this out. And so in order to clean it up for us as a POA, we need to get this license issued.
Okay.
You don't have to move the wall. You don't have to give the land back. You get to use it. We just have to license it to you.
Okay.
So I make a motion that a variance be recorded and that you will work with Cheryl to take care of it.
Actually, can we just correct that to a license agreement?
Let me correct my motion to issue a license agreement. Thank you.
I'll second that one.
Any further board comment? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
5 in favor.
This was actually a pretty good night with the appeals. Long night, but we made at least half the people happy, right? We have one last action here. That's the last action.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Harmony, we all in favor?
Okay, thank you.
5-0.